Emperor Nanshen asked disdainfully. Why? Is your Emperor Fenghua afraid of losing again today so she doesn't dare to come? Your Majesties, my Emperor has some urgent matters to take care of at the last minute. He will probably be here in the afternoon, Prime Minister Sima said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. He thought to himself their emperor's skin was thicker than the city walls. Why would she be afraid of losing face? She was catching up on her sleep. Emperor Nanshen and the other two exchanged a look, saying that they were not afraid of losing. The competition in the morning was pill refinement, and the competition in the afternoon was array formation. She was trying to avoid the pill refinement competition. It was simply like there was no silver in this place. However, it did not matter. Anyway, when she came in the afternoon, they could still ridicule her. Moreover, as the Emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom, she actually didn't even dare to show her face. This was simply a disgrace to Her Excellency. This lass appeared to be quite smart, but in reality her cleverness was actually mistaken by her cleverness. As expected, when the subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom saw that their glorious female emperor actually hid like a cowardly tortoise, they instantly felt disgraced. Even those who were doing business seemed to have no energy to shout. Prime Minister Sima and Yunjichen looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Your Majesty, you can really be a demon. Why are you taking a nap all of a sudden? When the host saw that everyone from the 4 countries had arrived, he jumped onto the stage and said, the second round of the competition is a pill refining competition. Each country can only choose 3 participants. In the end, the corresponding points will be given according to the ranking. Now the participants from each country will be invited onto the stage. When Prime Minister Sima saw the participants from East Phoenix, his body stiffened and a hint of shock appeared in his eyes. Yunjichen, who was sitting beside him, lowered his voice and asked, Prime Minister, is there a problem? Prime Minister Sima opened the isolation array and said in a low voice, our country's participants are clearly 3 old men. They were all carefully selected by me. How did one of them suddenly become a little girl? Yunjichen looked up and saw that among the 3 people wearing the East Phoenix country's contestant attire, there was indeed an ordinary-looking little girl. Her spiritual power level was at the 3rd layer of the spirit illusion realm. It could be said that her aptitude was mediocre. Yunjichen frowned. Could it be that this little girl is the disciple or granddaughter of the old man from before? Perhaps something happened to the old man and that's why she temporarily replaced him? Prime Minister Sima thought for a moment. It was very likely that this was the case. He couldn't help but say angrily, how outrageous. If Dr. Yu has something to say, he can simply inform me. I'll send someone else. But now, no matter how good this little girl's appearance was, she was at most a level 13 alchemist. This time, the minimum content of the competition would be level 20 medicinal pills. Isn't this just fooling around? I'll send someone to explain the situation. Send someone else up. Yunjichen shook his head. Prime Minister, now that the contestants have stepped onto the stage, if you say so, the people from the other 3 nations will definitely take the opportunity to mock us. Moreover, even if you send someone else up, the final result will still be in the last place. Since that's the case, just accept your mistake. Prime Minister Sima thought that what Yunjichen said made sense. Since they were going to lose anyway, it would be better to just let it be. No wonder their Emperor Fenghua did not come. It could be imagined that after the pill refining competition ended, the other 3 nations would be filled with ridicule and complacency. Just thinking about it made him feel stifled. When Emperor Nanshen and the other 2 saw that the East Phoenix country had actually sent a little girl up onto the stage, the 3 of them curled their lips. It seemed that the East Phoenix country had broken all the rules. Had they sent such a little girl up to find an excuse for failure? How foolish. When the subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom saw that little girl, their hearts instantly turned cold. It was over. Not only had their Emperor Fenghua not come, but now he had actually sent a little girl to compete. Was he giving up completely? Not to mention getting a good ranking, this little girl probably wouldn't even be able to complete the questions, right? Which idiot had chosen this person? Wasn't this obviously going up to embarrass themselves? The people from the other 3 nations were also discussing animatedly. TSK, I think that the East Phoenix country is really getting worse and worse. At the very least, the contestants that were sent up earlier were still acting as if they were the real deal, but this time they actually sent a little girl. Exactly, I think that they've broken all the rules. Sending a little girl up even if they lose, it can be considered an excuse. How shameless. That's right, besides knowing how to do business, the East Feng Kingdom doesn't know anything else. Moreover, that female emperor of the Zephyr Nation is obviously someone who can harm money. Sooner or later, the East Feng Kingdom will be finished. When the people of the East Feng Kingdom heard the discussions of these people, they were both angry and angry. However, they couldn't defeat the other party in a 1-on-3 fight, so they could only vent their anger on that ordinary-looking little girl. Don't you know your own level? Don't you know your own level? If I ask you to go up, do you go up? Don't you know that the moment you go up, you will represent the East Phoenix Kingdom? Not to mention the people of the East Phoenix Kingdom, even the other two contestants of the East Phoenix Kingdom had dumbfounded expressions on their faces. They were clearly Dr. Yu of the 100 Herb Hall previously, but how did she become this little girl? Could she be an imposter? However, after thinking about it, it was impossible for her to be an imposter. If she was an imposter, firstly, there wouldn't be this set of clothes. Secondly, all the contestants had their own people to protect them. It was also impossible for her to secretly harm the physicians. Moreover, even if the physicians went on stage, they would at most be slightly stronger than them. In the end, they would still be in the bottom 3. There was no need for this little girl to harm the physicians. Just as the two of them were puzzled, the host announced the countries and names of the contestants one by one. Qiu Anbong of the South Dragon Kingdom, Zhai Wenxiong. The East Phoenix Kingdom wins all of them. Emperor Nanxian, Emperor Shiwen, Emperor Beijing. Everyone. Was this host sick? The competition hadn't even started yet. How did the East Phoenix Kingdom win all of them? The host clearly felt that his words were easily misunderstood, so he hurriedly explained, "Everyone, don't misunderstand. This female contestant's name is All Win, so together, it means that East Phoenix country wins all of them." What the hell? All Win? Wasn't this name too fucking confident? Yun Jichen and Prime Minister Sima looked at each other, and Yun Jichen said, "Could it be because of this name that Dr. Yu allowed her to replace him? Isn't this too absurd?" Prime Minister Sima smiled bitterly. No matter what the reason was, this All Win was a stunning feat. It was estimated that from today onwards, this name would become the laughingstock of the 4 nations. Among the 12 contestants on the stage, other than all of them who had won, all of them were elderly people. Everyone looked at her with disdain and contempt. Was this All Win a joke? The host continued. The content of today's alchemy competition is to refine a level 22-8 transformation life creation pill. The time limit is 4 hours, and the final ranking will be based on the rate of completion of the pill, the quality of the pill, and the length of time used. Now the competition begins. When Yun Jichen and Prime Minister Sima heard the content of the competition, their hearts instantly turned cold. It seemed that those who had won all could only hand in their blank papers. The subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom had the same thoughts as Prime Minister Sima. No matter how talented they were, they would at most be a level 13 alchemist. How could they successfully refine a level 22 rank 8 life creation pill? It was over. This time they had lost a lot of face. Although the East Phoenix Kingdom was ranked last in the previous pill refining competition, they could at least complete the refinement. This time the domineering name of All Win for nothing was completely wasted. They could only hand in the blank paper. Emperor Nanxian and the other two gloated at each other's misfortune. When that little girl arrived in the afternoon, they would definitely mock her. Their East Feng Kingdom really had no one left. They actually sent a little girl to support the scene. It was simply too embarrassing. At this time, everyone on the competition stage had already started warming up the alchemy furnace. Only that person who had won all blinked his eyes. In a daze. Prime Minister Sima was really angry. If you don't have those skills, then don't go up and embarrass yourself. But now the pill refining period was 4 hours. You wouldn't just stand there for 4 hours, right? Even if you don't know how to refine pills, don't you know how to put on an act? At least it wouldn't be so embarrassing. Prime Minister Sima quickly realized that he was thinking too much. That person who had won all didn't just stand there in a daze. Instead, he took out a chair and leisurely sat on it, to watch the show. This fellow perfectly explained what it meant to watch the show and not think that it was a big deal. He shamelessly said to himself, "Hey, contestant number 1, your alchemy furnace looks pretty good. How much did you buy it for?" Contestant number 2, your fire marrow is a 100-year fire marrow, right? You're quite rich. Contestant number 3, I see that the storage ring on your hand is quite high-end. Did you buy it in our East Phoenix country's Golden Jade house? Alchemy required one to calm down and concentrate. This fellow's words immediately made everyone restless. Number 1 Chio Onbong of the South Dragon Country shouted angrily, "All of you win." "Shut up." The little girl spread her hands innocently. "Host judges, there isn't a rule that forbids you from speaking, right? I didn't leave my operating table and I didn't fight. Can't you just say something? Moreover, as the top experts of the 4 nations, are you not allowed to speak when refining pills? Isn't this standard a little too bad? I'm not bragging, let alone someone speaking. Even if the Earth Dragon turns over, I can still successfully refine the pills. This is the difference." The corners of everyone's mouths twitched violently. "You're really shameless. Let's not talk about whether your words are in accordance with the rules. With your level, you still have the nerve to say that you're better than others? Shameless." However, after some discussion among the judges, there was really no rule that forbade people from speaking. Therefore, the host said to Chio Onbong, who had raised a protest, "Speaking is not prohibited in the rules, so it's not considered a violation if you win all of them." Chio Onbong was so angry that he simply covered his ears. It was not annoying to not listen. The other contestants followed suit and also covered their ears to avoid being affected by all the wins. Although there was a difference in the strength of these 12 people, it was not to a particularly large extent. Therefore, with all of them winning and causing trouble, the gap between the 2 contestants of the East Phoenix Kingdom and the others had narrowed further. Emperor Nanxian slammed the table angrily. "The East Phoenix Kingdom is too shameless. No wonder they sent a little girl up there. It turns out that they are deliberately causing trouble." Emperor Shiwen snorted coldly. Even so, the rankings of the 2 contestants of the East Phoenix Kingdom are at most at the middle level. In addition, all of them won last place. Their results combined are still at the bottom. Emperor Nanxian felt that what Emperor Shiwen said made sense. He glanced at Prime Minister Sima and the others. He sneered and said, "So, no matter how many tricks are used in front of absolute strength, they are useless. Some people using such underhanded methods is really embarrassing." Prime Minister Sima's face was like a red cloth. He wished he could find a hole and hide in it. Where did that disaster come from? This wasn't helping their East Phoenix country. This was harming their East Phoenix country. After tormenting for a long time, even though they gained a few points, what was the use of it? Unless they could all win and enter the top 3, their East Phoenix country might not be at the bottom. However, with this fellow, let alone the top 3, they could only hand in their blank papers. It was simply too embarrassing. However, that fellow did not feel ashamed. Instead, she felt proud. She sat on the chair and watched the other contestants refine pills with a smile. She did not even take out her alchemy furnace. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 could not be bothered to ridicule her anymore. They kept their words and prepared to humiliate Empress Jiao in the afternoon. When the contestants saw that all of them were no longer winning, they took out the things that were stuffed in their ears. After all, it was really awkward to be stuffed like this. Soon 2 hours had passed. During this period of time, all of them had been very quiet. They were either in a daze or resting with their eyes closed, looking like they had broken a broken jar. At this time, the herbs of the other contestants had already turned into medicinal liquid. It was estimated that in another hour, there would be contestants who would finish refining the pills one after another. At this moment, all of them stood up, stretched, and said lazily, "Sigh, stupid birds fly first. You stupid birds have almost flown enough. It's time for me to start refining pills." Those contestants almost gasped. They had never seen such shameless people. They were stupid birds. "You're clearly the stupid bird, okay? Shameless." The people below couldn't help but jeer. Where did all of them come from? With such thick skin, it was simply unprecedented and unprecedented. She was going to start refining pills? Refining the 8 transformation life creation pill? Don't joke around. She was probably just randomly refining it. This way, when the competition ended, there would at least be some medicinal juice in her pill refining furnace. However, looking at her current state, it wasn't certain that the furnace would explode. When everyone saw the pill refining furnaces that all of them had taken out, they were even more dumbfounded. They saw that the pill refining furnace was actually only a middle-grade spirit tool with a few vegetable leaves hanging on it. That little girl rinsed it with water and then began to stuff medicinal herbs into it. Prime Minister Sima almost vomited blood from anger. Could it be that he didn't know how to refine pills at all? He had never heard of stuffing medicinal herbs into it without warming up. Also, could you explain why there were vegetable leaves in the raw alchemy furnace? This was an alchemy furnace, not a wok. Prime Minister Sima consoled himself. No matter what, it seemed that the proportion of medicinal herbs that were all won and released was correct. Although the refinement was not successful, at least it showed that she knew the formula for the 8th transformation life creation pill. This was not too embarrassing. Prime Minister Sima wanted to cry. His requirements had already been lowered to this extent. Please don't cause any more trouble if you win all win. However, very quickly, Prime Minister Sima was so angry that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. She actually lifted the lid of the pill refining furnace and added a purple kite grass into it. She was seeking death by playing tricks. Didn't she know that lifting the lid of the alchemy furnace during the alchemy process was a big taboo? Alwyn. She should change her name to Alwyn. The citizens of the 4 nations who were watching the show below also laughed out loud one after another. This Alwyn was simply a disgrace. If the eyes of the citizens of the East Phoenix Kingdom could kill people, then Alwyn would have been turned into thieves by now. The people of the East Phoenix Kingdom were simply about to die from anger. Every time their East Phoenix Kingdom was in last place, it was also a disgrace, but it had never been this shameful before. This Alwyn was simply setting a new shameful record for their East Phoenix country. If you don't know how to refine pills, then just sit there and wait for the competition to end. Why must you be so embarrassed? Do you think this is stir-frying? If it's bland, then add some salt. If it's sour, then add some sugar? This is simply nonsense. No wonder there were vegetable leaves in front of her alchemy furnace. This little girl might just be a chef. Soon, the aroma of medicinal herbs began to spread from the alchemy furnaces of the other competitors. Only the winner kept stuffing some medicinal herbs into the alchemy furnace. Everyone was too lazy to look at her. The result was obvious anyway. She could do whatever she wanted to do. After a while, Qiu Anbong of the Nanxian Kingdom raised his hand to signal. I've completed the refinement. Xiao Yuan from Beixian also raised his hand and said, I'm done too. At this moment, everyone raised their paws and said, Host, I'm done too. Remember, I'm in 3rd place. Everyone, did you really think that you could come in 3rd just because you said you were in 3rd place? Shameless. There was definitely a ball of medicinal liquid in her alchemy furnace. Perhaps there wasn't even any medicinal liquid in it. How could she say that she was done? The host didn't say anything and recorded it truthfully. Then the other contestants completed the competition one after another. Now it was the most exciting moment. The judges began to judge the final results of the contestants according to their participating numbers. The judges first went to the front of Qiu Anbang's operating table and opened the lid of the alchemy furnace. When they saw the medicinal pills inside, everyone nodded in admiration. Then the host announced loudly, the success rate of Qiu Anbang of the Southern Dragon Kingdom is 80%, 6 high-grade pills, 2 middle-grade pills and 36 points. The spectators immediately cried out in surprise. Not only was the success rate of the pills so high, but 6 of them were high-grade pills. This was too amazing. Qiu Anbang was very proud in his heart. If not for that all-win troublemaker, there might have been 7 high-grade pills. But even so, the first place in the alchemy competition would belong to him. As expected, the results announced after that were not as high as Qiu Anbang's. The results of the 2 old men from the East Phoenix country were both in the middle range, which was considered pretty good. Now, only number 12 had won all of them. Although the judges felt that it was meaningless to watch or not to watch, they couldn't break the rules. So one of the judges casually lifted the lid of the alchemy furnace. Then there was no then. That judge first opened his mouth wide and then fainted with a choking sound. The spectators below immediately became excited. Emma. Not good. That all-win actually turned the 8 transformation life creation pill into poison. It actually poisoned the judge. I told you she couldn't just randomly stuff medicinal herbs into it, right? Now the pill that was supposed to save people has turned into a harmful pill. Pan DN0V1 them. Prime Minister Sima's head was buzzing. It was over. Someone had died. Other contestants needed points to refine pills, but those who won all the pill refining battles were going to die. The little girl on the stage was even more dumbfounded. Fuck. Pingxi. The pill she refined was obviously a rank 8 life creation pill. Why did this referee faint at a glance? It must be Punxi. Shameless. The other referees couldn't be bothered to look at the pill furnaces that had all won. They surrounded the referee and gave him a round of treatment. The other 2 contestants from the East Phoenix Kingdom looked on speechlessly as they watched all of them win. One after another they sighed. This all win was probably for a good reason. They wanted to give them a helping hand. However, no matter how much they messed around, they could not refine a poison to harm others. However, that was also true. They reckoned that she had just randomly refined it. They reckoned that she did not even know what the heck she had refined. The 2 contestants from the East Phoenix country were slightly better off, but the contestants from the other 3 countries had gloating expressions on their faces. Qiao Anbang's face was filled with indignation as he angrily rebuked. You've won all of them. You're really morally corrupt. How can a human life be a child's play? If you don't know how to refine pills, then don't come up and harm others and yourself. Now that you've poisoned the referee to the point of fainting, what crime should you commit? All of them had been fuming in their hearts due to being blackmailed. When they heard what he said, they were instantly enraged. Which fucking eye of yours saw that I refined a poison? If you don't know how to speak, then don't speak. Didn't you just refine 6 high-grade 8 transformation life creation pills? Do you really think you're that great? Pooey. I'm better than you even with my eyes closed. When refining pills, you're not allowed to let others speak. Why don't you shut everyone's mouths? You're not capable yet you blame others. You're shameless. Now that you're slandering me, are you afraid that it'll surpass you when my results are announced later? Is that why you can't wait to smear me? How insidious. Qiao Anbang's old face flushed red from all the winning words. He was so angry that he was trembling. Good. Good. I won't argue with you. You poisoned the referee. You will suffer in a while. Emperor Nanxian saw that all the winners were so arrogant and could not help but frown. Then he said to Prime Minister Sima, your East Phoenix country's contestant poisoned the referee. If that referee is fine, this matter can be reduced to a small matter. But if that referee is really in trouble, Your Majesty Fenghua must give him an explanation. Prime Minister Sima pretended to be calm and said, Your Majesty, the matter has not been investigated clearly. It is too early to draw a conclusion. Maybe that referee has some old illness. It may not be caused by all the pills he won. Prime Minister Sima did not believe what he said. That referee was an alchemist himself. If he had an old illness, he would not have come to be the referee. Oh God, their emperor had not come for a long time and such a big mess had happened. How was he going to explain it to His Majesty? Emperor Nanxian snorted coldly. He thought that he would come to a conclusion soon anyway. Let's see how he can keep his mouth shut when the time comes. At this moment, the referee on the competition stage woke up. He first looked at the crowd surrounding him in a daze, then jumped up and pounced in front of the all-win console. The spectators' blood immediately boiled. That referee was definitely going to take revenge on all of them. There was a good show to watch. All of them subconsciously took a step back. Fuck, was this still a series of scams? The referee's face was full of excitement. He pointed at the alchemy furnace that all of them had won and said with a trembling voice, 10 high-grade pills. 10 high-grade pills. To have such results at such a young age, he is simply a genius. A genius. Everyone was stunned. What the hell was that? Why couldn't they understand what the judge was saying? What 10 high-grade pills? What genius? Could he have gone mad? The other judges looked suspiciously at the pill furnaces that had all won. Then all of them were dumbstruck. They saw that there were 10 round 8 transformation life pills inside the pill furnaces. Moreover, all of them were high-grade pills. They finally understood why that judge fainted. This All-Win was so young, but he actually had such alchemy attainments. If it was given time, he would definitely be an alchemy grandmaster of a generation. When All-Win saw those judges' fierce and hungry eyes, he immediately cried out in his heart. This was already restrained, why was it still so shocking? Wasn't this towering sky continent higher level than the immortal essence continent? Why was her alchemy level so lousy? If she had known this would happen, she would have restrained herself even more. Being too outstanding was also a burden. This fellow decided to cover it up. His face revealed an expression of fear and trepidation. Actually, I have never refined such a high-level medicinal pill. Perhaps the medicinal herbs that were randomly stuffed and took effect? When the judges heard that, they suddenly came to a realization. It must be so. They had said that no matter how talented this little girl was, it was impossible for her to be perverted to such an extent. It was likely that she had carelessly done it. They did not know how she had hit the nail on the head. Some of the judges hurriedly took out a piece of paper and pen and tried their best to recall how Yunchujo had done it before. They recorded it down in detail one by one, preparing to go back and ponder over it again. They even wrote down the vegetable leaves. They even specially asked Yunchujo what kind of vegetable leaves they were. Yunchujo looked at the host and said, "Host, shouldn't you announce my results?" The host was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. This series of twists and turns was simply more exciting than what was written in the storybook. He had originally thought that this all-win was a joke. Who would have thought that it would actually become a legend? This was really melodramatic. The host steadied his mind and announced loudly, "East Phoenix Country wins all of them. 100% pill success rate, 10 high-grade pills, 50 points. Immediately the pot exploded. What the hell? 100% pill success rate? 10 high-grade pills? How was this possible? Don't joke around. Not to mention that little lass, even an alchemist from a middle-grade country wouldn't be able to do it, alright? However, since the host had already announced it, then it shouldn't be fake anymore. That all-win was really dog shit luck. He actually succeeded just by messing around. There was really no one else. Chiao Anbong and the other contestants gathered in front of the all-win console to watch in disbelief. When they saw the pills in the alchemy furnace and took them out to smell, their faces were instantly filled with shock. They had actually just refined them. They had lost. Prime Minister Sima's expression was simply wonderful. Disbelief, surprise, ecstasy. Then he hugged Yunjichin, who was beside him, and laughed loudly. Yunzichin's heart was like a beeping dog. "Prime Minister, you're already so old, can't you be a little more reserved? Didn't you just get first place in the alchemy competition? Did you have to be so excited?" Crown Prince Yun. The heavens have eyes. Ever since the retired emperor passed away, our East Phoenix country hasn't gotten a single first place. Moreover, alchemy has always been our East Phoenix country's forte. Now that we've finally gotten first place, this is simply a joyous occasion for the entire world. No, I'll immediately go back and report the good news to His Majesty. Yunjichin was speechless. With great difficulty he managed to pull back the overjoyed Prime Minister Sima. "Prime Minister Sima, calm down. Calm down. His Majesty will be here in the afternoon. You can tell her when the time comes." Prime Minister Sima thought about it and agreed. If he left, it wouldn't be good if there was no one here to hold down the fort. He could only suppress his excitement and sit down again. Then he looked at the competition stage. Now that Prime Minister Sima saw that all of them had won, he felt that this was the descent of a fairy from heaven. Her name was well chosen. All of them had won. As expected, she had won as soon as she went up. He had decided that in the future, when selecting candidates, he would specifically pick those with auspicious names, such as Eternal Victory, Undefeated, and Champion. The subjects of East Phoenix Kingdom were so happy that they were going crazy. Their East Phoenix Kingdom had finally been able to hold their heads high. That all-win had won first place as soon as they went up. As expected, it was their East Phoenix Kingdom's mascot. Alright, these people had completely forgotten how they had won against all of them with flying eye knives. The people of East Feng Kingdom were happy, and the expressions of Emperor Nanxian and the other two were extremely unsightly. Not only had all of them won, but they had also won with a crushing advantage. The results of the three people from East Feng Kingdom added together had actually won first place. It was simply unbelievable. Originally they had wanted to laugh at Empress Jiao in the afternoon. But now they could see how Empress Jiao would be showing off when she arrived in the afternoon. Emperor Nanxian and the others did not doubt the results of the competition, because those referees were transferred from the 4 countries, so it was impossible for them to cheat. Finally, the host announced the final result of the alchemy competition. As expected, the East Phoenix Kingdom won first place. The subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom and Prime Minister Sima were ecstatic once again. It didn't matter if the East Phoenix Kingdom was at the bottom of the other events. At least they had won the alchemy competition. Emperor Nanxian curled his lips. Look at how promising the East Phoenix Kingdom is. We've won so many first places in the past, but we're not as smug as they are. Emperor Xuan echoed, that's right. It's no wonder. The East Phoenix Kingdom hasn't won the first place in 800 years. It's not easy for them to get it, so they naturally get carried away. Emperor Beijing said disdainfully, didn't you hear that they all won? She just happened to win by accident. She's not a talented pill-making seedling at all. What's there to be happy about? At this moment, the contestants on the stage left the stage one after another, all winning and leaving the stage. Before the subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom could surround them, the royal guards had already taken them away under strict protection. When Emperor Nanshen saw this, he sneered in his heart. Did he really think that she was a treasure? She was just lucky. After resting for 2 hours at noon, before the start of the array competition, Empress Jiu's luxurious palanquin arrived. It was the same as the day before. All kinds of shameless slogans were written on the flag. The palace maids laid down the ground-shaking snow cashmere carpet, and then everyone knelt down to invite Empress Jiu. Empress Jiu slowly got down from the sedan chair. Unlike the bright red she wore the day before, today she wore a dress that was as white as snow. She was floating in the air like a fairy. Empress Jiu looked around and then said indifferently, rise. After Empress Jiu walked to the VIP area, she had just sat down when Prime Minister Sima said with a trembling voice, Your Majesty, we have won the first place in the pill refining competition. Empress Jiu only said indifferently, yes, I know. Prime Minister Sima, you are already quite old. You should be calmer when you encounter things. Isn't it just obtaining the first place? What's there to be excited about? If you were to obtain a few more first places, wouldn't you go crazy? Prime Minister Sima. Before Prime Minister Sima could say anything, Emperor Nanshen mocked. Don't worry, Your Majesty Fenghua. You won't have this chance anymore. In the next competition, your East Phoenix country will only be at the bottom. Empress Jiu curled her lips. That might not be the case. Let me do some calculations. This year our East Phoenix country's luck is really good. Who knows, we might even be able to obtain a few first places in the next competition. Then well, wait and see. Emperor Nanshen curled his lips and said. Empress Jiu just smiled and didn't say anything because this fellow was busy eating pastries. I'm starving to death. Prime Minister Sima's excitement had completely disappeared. Firstly, he had been beaten up by Empress Jiu, and secondly, he was starting to worry about Empress Jiu's bearing. Your Majesty, have you been sleeping all the way until now and you don't even have time to eat? Do you have to eat like a wolf? At this moment, the array competition began. Empress Jiu did not even glance at it. After eating and drinking to her heart's content, she leaned back on the chair and fell asleep. Prime Minister Sima, Your Majesty, you've already slept for an entire morning, haven't you slept enough? In that case, you might as well sleep in the palace. At least it wouldn't be so embarrassing. 4 hours later, the array competition ended. As expected, the South Dragon Kingdom won first place, and the East Phoenix Kingdom steadily won fourth place. Emperor Nanshen was pleased with himself. He said to Empress Jiu, who had just woken up, strength is the most important thing. Luck is really unreliable. Your Majesty Fenghua, don't you think so? The corners of Empress Jiu's mouth curled up. Maybe. I'm in a hurry to go back and have dinner. See you later. Prime Minister Sima, who had been worried about Empress Jiu's bearing, wanted to cry out loud. Your Majesty, our Dongfeng Kingdom is rich and strong. Are you hungry? Do you have to be so greedy? I'm really worried to death. After a night of silence, the next morning, Prime Minister Sima and Yun Jichen found that their empress was once again lazing in bed. Empress Jiu's lazy voice came from inside the tent. In any case, winning first place in the pill refining competition has already exceeded my mission, so I have to take a good rest today. You guys can go. Prime Minister Sima thought for a moment. If Her Majesty went, she would either eat or sleep. It was better if she didn't go so as to not affect Her Majesty's prestige. Thus, Prime Minister Sima and Yun Jichen brought people to the venue. When Emperor Nanshen and the other two saw that Empress Jiu did not come again, they thought to themselves, that girl probably knew that their East Phoenix country was at the bottom of the competition, so she found an excuse not to come. Did not matter. At night they would go to her palace and ridicule her. They would definitely embarrass her. When the time came, the host stepped onto the stage. The fourth round of the competition is a talisman-making competition. Each country can only choose 3 participants. In the end, the corresponding points will be awarded according to the ranking. Now please bring the participants from each country onto the stage. When Prime Minister Sima saw the contestants from the East Phoenix country, his face stiffened. Why did this contestant change people again? It was clearly 3 old men. Why did one of them change into a little girl? However, this little girl did not win all of the previous contestants. Not only was her appearance different, but her spiritual power level was also different. What exactly was going on? Just as Prime Minister Sima was feeling suspicious, the host announced the contestants' countries and names one by one. Su Ji from the South Dragon Kingdom, Lu Qingfei. Yi Ding from the East Phoenix Kingdom won. Everyone, she would definitely win? This host had been bribed by the East Phoenix Kingdom, right? The host was experienced this time and quickly explained, the name of the 12th contestant from the East Phoenix Kingdom is Yi Ding Win. The easy one is E, not the one. The host's heart was like a beeping dog. Where on earth did East Phoenix find this contestant? Why were all the names so weird? Everyone was also dumbfounded. Why were the contestants from the East Phoenix country competing with the word win this time? How badly did the East Phoenix country want to win? Didn't they win the first place in the alchemy competition yesterday? I think the Xi Dingjing might have changed his name. It's really possible. You're dreaming. If we can win with a lucky name, wouldn't it be settled if everyone changed their names? That's right. It doesn't matter if they all win or Yi Ding wins. Talisman making is our Southern Dragon Kingdom's strong point. The first place will definitely be ours. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 also had mocking expressions on their faces. Yi Ding wins. I think your Yi Ding loses. Seeing that Prime Minister Sima didn't show any strange expression, Yun Jichen thought that he was the one who arranged Yi Ding win, so he asked Prime Minister Sima in a low voice, Prime Minister Sima, did you change the name of this contestant? Prime Minister, did you change the name of this contestant? Needless to say, this name is not worse than all of them. It's just that she's a little young. What level is she a talisman master? Prime Minister Sima. What did he change? After the competition ended yesterday, he specially went to look for that contestant who had won all of them. In the end, Commander Pang of the Royal Forest Army said that that contestant who had won all of them had left long ago. She had only done it to help the East Phoenix country fight for its reputation. Moreover, he had specially gone to look at the contestants who would be competing next yesterday. They were all very normal. Who would have thought that one of them would have been switched out today? It was Yi Ding Ding who had won. This was simply fucking ridiculous. How would he know what level the little girl was a talisman master? Yesterday she had been able to successfully refine pills by chance. However, today she could not rely on luck to obtain victory in talisman refinement. Wasn't this just fooling around? Seeing that Prime Minister Sima's expression was getting uglier and uglier, Yun Jichen immediately understood. That Yi Ding win was most likely not arranged by Prime Minister Sima. It was just that it was strange. Why was there a contestant being swapped over and over again? Was that Commander Pang blind? Panda N0VE1 at this moment. The host on the stage began to announce the contents of the competition. Today's talisman refinement competition is to draw a level 15 phantom talisman. The time limit is 4 hours. Finally, the number of talismans and the quality of talismans will be ranked. The competition will begin now. As the host spoke, the contestants began to write rapidly. Of course, that Yi Dingjing was not one of them. That Yi Dingjing raised his claws to indicate that there was a problem. The host hurriedly asked, "Contestant, do you have any questions? Can I speak? Can I eat? I haven't had breakfast this morning." The host, even in his dreams, the host never thought that Yi Dingjing would ask such a strange question. He turned his head to look at the referees. Those referees were also dumbfounded, but they still nodded. Thus, the host said with a stiff expression, "Yes, you can do whatever you want." Thus, under the watchful eyes of the audience, Yi Dingjing drew the talisman paper and demon beast blood on the operating table to the side, took out a tray of small steamed buns, a bowl of porridge and a few dishes and began to eat happily. Thus, on the competition stage, the 11 contestants scribbled furiously while a little girl buried her head in her food. Such a stark contrast immediately made the subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom feel disheartened. This Yi Dingjing was far inferior to all of them. She was just there to make up the numbers. From the looks of it, she didn't know how to draw phantom talismans at all. Just as everyone was thinking, they heard Yi Dingjing shout, "That number 1, you've been drawing for a long time. Are you hungry? Why don't I give you a steamed bun as a friend? Number 2, are you thirsty? Why don't I give you a pot of tea as a friend? Number 3, I see that your hand is cramping from drawing. Do you want to sit down and rest for a while?" Yi Dingjing's shout inevitably had an impact on those contestants. Among them, a few of their talisman papers were burnt to ashes in an instant, and all of them were so angry that they gritted their teeth. However, Yi Dingjing had already asked for the referee's opinion, so they could only turn a deaf ear to her shouting and shouting. Emperor Nanshan looked at Prime Minister Sima with a gloomy face. "Your East Phoenix country is using such a despicable method again. It's really disgraceful." Prime Minister Sima's heart was on the verge of collapse. He didn't want to. He also wanted to know who had sent that weirdo. However, no matter how ridiculous his own contestant was, he couldn't say that his own contestant wasn't right. Thus, he said with an indifferent expression, "Your Majesty Nanshan, this is permitted by the rules. You can also allow the returning contestant to speak, even if it's just singing a few paragraphs." Emperor Nanshan snorted coldly. "Our southern dragon country is sitting upright and upright. We will not use such unrated methods. Even if your Eastern Phoenix country changes its name and causes trouble, the first place in this talisman crafting competition will still belong to our southern dragon country." Prime Minister Sima did not say a word. He thought to himself, if you guys are first, then so be it. What's so great about it? Anyway, they won first place in the alchemy competition. With this person at the bottom, it didn't matter in other competitions. At the very most, they would just get 4th place. In any case, they didn't get into the top 5. Why did these words sound so familiar? It seemed that His Majesty had led him astray. At this moment, Yi Dingjing finally finished his breakfast leisurely on the stage. After tidying up his things, he stretched his neck to look at the progress of the other contestants. He said with a smile, "After eating and drinking, I finally have the strength to draw talismans." Draw talismans? The corners of everyone's eyes twitched violently. It seemed that this Yi Dingjing really didn't know how to draw talismans. Otherwise, how could a talisman maker say that? Yi Dingjing picked up the talisman brush and started drawing. The audience immediately sneered. That Yi Dingjing is obviously an amateur. Even if she was drawing low-level talismans, she can't be so fast. That's right. She's probably just casually drawing a few strokes and then making up the numbers. But let's not talk about that. Her talisman paper isn't burned, which means that what she's drawing might really be talismans. Forget it. In my opinion, she didn't inject spiritual energy into it at all. Naturally, it won't burn. As time passed, a few phantom talismans that had been drawn were placed beside each contestant. Yi Dingjing also placed a few talismans beside him, but everyone felt that it must have been a random drawing by Yi Dingjing. Only the host, who was standing not far away from Yi Dingjing's operating table, had a look of surprise in his eyes. He had seen it clearly. Although Yi Dingjing was drawing very quickly, she was not just making up the numbers. Not only were the talismans she had drawn really phantom talismans, they were also of high quality. In this talisman-making competition, the first place belonged to her. The host cursed in his heart. Could it be that the winner was not simple at all? Should he change his name in the future? It was just that his surname was a little special, so it was probably not easy to call it a win. His surname was Jia. Could it be called Jiaing? Wouldn't that be a loss? Just as the supporters were letting loose, no one expected a bolt of lightning to descend from the sky. With a kacha sound, it shattered Yi Dingjing's operating platform, and the already drawn talisman on it naturally turned into ashes. Everyone was stunned by this unexpected turn of events. Why would a bolt of lightning suddenly descend from the sky? Why did it also smash Yi Dingjing's console? Yi Dingjing was also stunned. She was stunned at first, then looked up at the sky. The sky was clear and cloudless, as if the heavenly lightning was just her illusion. She gritted her teeth and looked down at the mess in front of her. The heavenly lightning was very accurate. It only shattered her operating table, and the adjacent operating table number 11 was intact. However, because of this thunder, the talisman that the other 11 contestants were drawing also turned into ashes. Dingjing's eyes flashed with a cold light. He said to the host, "Prepare another set of operating tables for me immediately. You have to be fast." The host was swept by Dingjing's cold gaze and quickly asked the staff to move another operating table over. The host thought to herself, what a pity for this Dingjing. If not for the heavenly lightning just now, she could have definitely taken first place. But now with this, no matter how fast she was, it was impossible for her to catch up with the other contestants. She was now behind by at least 3 talismans and there was less than 2 hours left. No matter how fast she drew, she could not catch up. Just as the host was thinking, she heard Dingjing ask, "Host, tell me, what are the points for different grades of talismans?" 5 points for upper grade, 3 points for middle grade and 1 point for lower grade. What about supreme grade? The host was stunned, but she still answered, 10 points for supreme grade. Dingjing hummed lightly, then picked up the talisman brush and began to draw. This time the speed was even faster than before. The spectators below were once again in high spirits. "Hey, did you hear that?" That Dingjing actually asked how many points a transcendent grade talisman seal had. Could it be that she still thinks that she can draw a transcendent grade phantom talisman? That's right, she really overestimates herself. Such a person deserves to be struck by lightning. I think her name is the name of being struck by lightning. Otherwise, why would the heavenly lightning strike her operating platform before anyone's operating platform? Prime Minister Sima silently sighed. This time he had added a new topic for discussion for the other 3 countries. In the future, when people mentioned the talisman competition of the 4 nations grand meeting, they would definitely say that the operating table of a certain world's 4 nations grand meeting had been struck by lightning. However, Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 felt very relieved. That Ding had acted like a demon before he won, he had struck her well. Why didn't he strike her as well? Finally, it was time for the end of the competition. Logically speaking, the host should have announced the end of the competition loudly when the time was up. However, it was unknown whether the host had been frightened by the heavenly lightning. He stood beside the 12th stage in a daze. He was completely unaware that it was time for the end of the competition. A few judges saw that the situation was not right and said loudly, "The time for the end of the competition is up. All contestants, stop what you are doing immediately. Otherwise, the result will be judged to be invalid." The host looked as if he had just woken up from a dream. He looked at Dingjing as if he was looking at a ghost and then stuttered, Yes, it's time. No more drawing." Both the judges and Emperor Nanxian were very dissatisfied. This host had been chosen from thousands of people. How could he stutter? It was extremely disappointing. The judges began to evaluate everyone's results. When the judges saw the results of the second contestant, Lu Qingfei, they could not help but exclaim in admiration. Only the eyes of the host flashed with disdain. This result was far inferior to that of Dingjing. 4 high grade and 2 middle grade. Not only did he complete 6 phantom talismans in such a short time, but the quality is also so high. I think he will definitely be number 1 today. A judge from the Southern Dragon Kingdom praised. Although the judges from the other 3 countries were not very comfortable, they had to admit that Lu Chengfei's results were really good. Another referee from the Southern Dragon Kingdom echoed, "Not bad. There's basically no need to continue reading. It's impossible for there to be another contestant with better results than him." A referee from the Eastern Phoenix Kingdom really could not stand their arrogance. He said coldly, "That might not be the case. There are still 10 contestants left. Perhaps there will be someone with better results than him. TSK, even if someone's result is better than number 2's, it won't be your Eastern Phoenix country's contestant. Which year's talisman competition doesn't your Eastern Phoenix country get the last place?" That's right. This year they even sent Ding to win. This is really hilarious. I really want to see how she will definitely win. The 2 Southern Dragon countries' judges echoed each other. Their sarcastic words made the 2 Eastern Phoenix countries' judges both embarrassed and angry. However, the Eastern Phoenix countries' talisman-making level was indeed the lowest among the 4 countries. They actually did not know how to refute. At this moment the host said, "Let's continue reading. Who knows if there will be a surprise." The two referees of the South Dragon Kingdom glared at the host fiercely, thinking to themselves, is there something wrong with this host's head? He actually openly spoke up for the people of the East Phoenix Kingdom. The two referees of the East Phoenix Kingdom nodded their heads gratefully at the host, and the crowd continued reading. The results of the next 9 contestants were not as good as Lu Chengfei's. The two referees of the South Dragon Kingdom looked even more proud. One of them said, "How is it? I told you that the first place would belong to our South Dragon Kingdom. What else do you have to say now?" The faces of the two referees of the East Phoenix Kingdom turned red, and they were speechless. What else could they say? Contestant number 10 and contestant number 11 belonged to the Eastern Phoenix country. Each of them had only completed 5 talismans, and only one of them was a high-grade talisman. The rest were all middle-grade talismans. They could not be compared to that Lu Qingfei at all. One of the Southern Dragon Country referees looked at the host and said, "Announce the results." Contestant number 2 Lu Qingfei is in first place. The combined points of the 3 contestants from our Southern Dragon Country will definitely be in first place. The expression on the host's face was very subtle. She pointed at Dinjing and said, "Judges, there's still one more contestant. It's not too late to announce her results after you've evaluated her results." The Southern Dragon Country's judge snorted in disdain. It doesn't matter whether she looks at her results or not. She doesn't know how to draw phantom talismans at all. Even if she does know how to draw phantom talismans, she could at most finish 2 or 3 talismans after her console was struck by lightning. The East Phoenix Kingdom's points will definitely be last. PN0V1 calm. The expression on the host's face was even more subtle. She said indifferently, "Whether it is meaningful or not, she is a contestant. All the referees, please take a look." The judge from the Southern Dragon Kingdom looked at the host with dissatisfaction. Then he walked to Yun Chujia's operating table and saw a few talismans placed on the side. He said disdainfully, "There are quite a lot of them, but what's the use? I think they are all random drawings." Dinjing did not say a word from beginning to end because he was afraid that there would be another heavenly lightning strike. He guarded the operating table with full vigilance. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. The judge of the Southern Dragon Country casually picked up a talisman and then stood there like a wooden chicken. The host thought to himself, "Damn it. I told you to show off. I told you to not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Are you shocked? Are you dumbfounded? What shocked you is still to come." The other judges saw that the judge of the Southern Dragon Country had a dull look on his face and could not help but be puzzled. They hurriedly walked over and looked at the talisman in his hand. One of the referees cried out in shock, "Transcendent grade. It's actually a transcendent grade phantom talisman." The 2 referees from the East Phoenix Country almost hugged their heads and cried bitterly. Even if the East Phoenix Country was still number 1 in the end, with this transcendent grade phantom talisman, their East Phoenix Country could be considered to be able to hold their heads high. When Lu Qingfei heard the referees mention the transcendent grade phantom talisman, his head buzzed. However, he consoled himself that even if he could draw a transcendent grade phantom talisman, so what? That Dinjing couldn't possibly have more points than him. Right at this moment, one of the Eastern Phoenix Country's judges let out a roar, and tears streamed down his face as he wailed loudly, "Our Eastern Phoenix Country has finally produced a talisman-making genius. The heavens really have eyes. The heavens have blessed our Eastern Phoenix Country." Whether it was Lu Qingfei or the onlookers, they all felt that this judge was too exaggerated, right? Although the super-grade talisman seal was very difficult, wasn't it just a dog shit or lucky drawing? Was there a need to be so excited? Right at this moment, the other referee from East Phoenix also howled. He was even more excited than the previous referee. He said incoherently, First, our East Phoenix is the first place in the talisman-making competition." Prime Minister Sima covered his eyes with his hand. Damn it, he couldn't bear to look at them. If he had known that these 2 people's psychological quality was so bad, he wouldn't have sent them to be the judges no matter what. It was simply too embarrassing. Their East Phoenix Kingdom's points were currently less than the South Dragon Kingdom's by more than 30 points. Although that Dinjing had drawn a transcendent grade talisman seal, his points couldn't possibly exceed 30 points. Could it be that these 2 judges didn't know how to count? At this moment the referee's acclamations and gasps rang out one after another on the competition stage, mixed with sounds like, genius, impossible, this is simply a miracle, and so on. Everyone was very puzzled. What on earth had happened? One by one they stretched their necks to look at the stage. Unfortunately they were too far away and couldn't see anything at all. Finally those referees calmed down. However, the two referees from the South Dragon country were flushed red in the face and looked ashamed and indignant. The two referees from the Eastern Phoenix Kingdom were beaming with joy. They looked at Dingjing as if he was an ancestor made of spirit stones. The host was very satisfied with the shocking scene of these people. In comparison, he had been too calm before, okay? Panda N0, V1. He cleared his throat and announced loudly, contestant number 12 Dingjing wins. He has 4 Supreme Grade Phantom Talismans and 40 points. The total results of the talisman-making competition are as follows. First place, East Phoenix Kingdom, 74 points. Second place, South Dragon Kingdom, 66 points. Prime Minister Sima was stunned at first. Then he jumped up from his seat and jumped more than 3 feet high. Ha ha. Ha. We are first place. Ha. We won. Our East Phoenix Kingdom actually won 2 first places. Ha. Yunjichen. Was this still the old Prime Minister who was always reminding His Majesty about his bearing? The subjects of East Phoenix Kingdom also began to cheer wildly. One by one they cried out. The cheers were simply deafening. Many of the East Phoenix Kingdom's subjects hugged their heads and wept bitterly. Woo, I never thought that in my lifetime I would actually see our East Phoenix Kingdom obtain first place in 2 events. Our East Phoenix Kingdom's talisman-making technique has finally walked out of the country. It has finally walked towards the 4 kingdoms. That's right, my great-grandfather's great-grandfather had such an impossible wish. I never thought that it would actually come true today. On the stage, Dingjing looked at the jubilant citizens of the East Feng Kingdom with a deep gaze. It seemed that even though he said that he did not mind, everyone had a competitive heart. There was nothing that could stimulate the pride of a nation's citizens more than such a victory. Right at this moment someone took the lead and said, all of this is a blessing brought by our emperor. Our emperor is the divine phoenix envoy. That's right, once Her Majesty Fenghua ascended the throne, our East Phoenix Kingdom obtained 2 first places. This is all thanks to Her Majesty Fenghua. The beauty of the female emperor is unparalleled in the world. The beauty of the female emperor is like a fish that has sunk into the depths of the ocean, like a bird that has fallen, like a bird that has fallen, like a bird that has fallen into the depths of the ocean, like a bird that has fallen into the depths of the ocean, like a bird that has fallen into the depths of the ocean, like a bird that has fallen into the depths of the ocean. The beauty of the female emperor is invincible. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 had ugly expressions on their faces. Firstly, it was because the East Phoenix Kingdom had obtained 2 victories in the competition. Secondly, when they saw the loyalty and fanaticism of the East Phoenix Kingdom towards the female emperor, they felt a sour feeling in their hearts. They didn't have such prestige in their respective countries. That girl had ascended the throne less than a year ago. How on earth did she do it? They couldn't help but feel fortunate. Fortunately, that girl didn't come today. Otherwise, she would have been extremely smug. They didn't know where the East Phoenix Kingdom had found the 2 wretched girls, Dingjing and Dongfeng. They were truly caught unprepared. Emperor Beijing's expression was even uglier than the other 2. No matter what, the West Martial Kingdom had obtained the first place in the weapon refining competition and the South Dragon Kingdom had obtained the first place in the array formation competition. Only the North Mystic Kingdom had yet to reap any rewards. Fortunately, the beast taming competition was to be held in the afternoon. This was the strength of the North Mystic Kingdom and the first place belonged to them. At this moment, Prime Minister Sima finally calmed down a little and suddenly rushed out of the VIP area. Yun Jichen shouted in shock, "Prime Minister, where are you going? This old man is going to take a look at that Dingjing. This old man wants to thank her properly." Prime Minister Sima said as he ran to the bottom of the competition stage, his face full of piety as he waited for Dingjing to step down from the stage. It wasn't just him. The citizens of the East Phoenix Kingdom were all crying tears of excitement as they waited for Dingjing to step down from the stage. Yesterday, when all of them had won and left the stage, They had been taken away by the royal guards. They didn't have the time to express their excitement at all. No matter what, they couldn't let Yi Dingjing leave just like that today. They had to thank her properly. Many merchants of East Phoenix Kingdom did not even do business. They had already thought it through. When they saw Yi Dingjing later, they would give their nuts to her. They were grateful that she had let them realize a great dream. When Yi Dingjing saw the crazy scene below, he could not help but feel a little pain in his head. Under his sleeve, he took out a voice transmission talisman, frowned, and said a few words before putting it away. Very quickly, Commander Pang of the Royal Forest Army led many of the Royal Forest Army to separate the fanatical subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom. Even Prime Minister Sima was mercilessly driven to the side, and then escorted Yi Dingjing out of the venue. Prime Minister Sima was so angry that the old man could not care less about his bearing. Pointing at Commander Pang's back, he jumped and scolded, "You little bastard. Just you wait, I must find His Majesty to write you a book." Yun Jichen finally managed to stop Prime Minister Sima, who insisted on going back to the headquarters to complain to Empress Jiao. He felt so tired. Prime Minister Sima was originally a very stable old man. Why did he become so lively now? He must have been led astray by His Majesty. Prime Minister Sima was like a chatterbox. He kept chattering beside Yun Jichen. The general content was nothing more than His Majesty's fortune reaching the heavens. His Majesty had brought great fortune to the East Phoenix Kingdom. From now on, the East Phoenix Kingdom would no longer be the last in 1,000 years. From now on, the East Phoenix Kingdom would have to hold its head up high. Emperor Nanxian and the other two gritted their teeth when they heard this. Emperor Nanxian said disdainfully, "Isn't it too easy for the East Phoenix Kingdom to be satisfied? Last time our South Dragon Kingdom obtained the first place in 3 events. We weren't as smug as them." Emperor Shiwen curled his lips. "They are just poor people who suddenly became rich. How can they compare with our 3 kingdoms?" "Exactly. This time they just got lucky. I don't know where they came from, but all of them won and Yi Ding won. I don't believe that they can come out and win during the beast taming competition." Emperor Beijing said disdainfully. After lunch, the beast taming competition began. Prime Minister Sima was extremely relaxed now. No matter what the results of the beast taming competition and the spiritual power competition were, their East Phoenix country had already greatly exceeded their mission this time. It was simply wonderful. However, when he saw the contestants on the competition stage, he couldn't help but sit up straight. Oh my, another little girl had appeared. Could it be that they had won again this time? He was not the only one who thought so. Everyone looked at the little girl. Strange things happened every year, and this year there were especially many. The East Phoenix country was only at the first level of the spirit illusion realm this year. This little girl's spiritual power level was really weak. Moreover, her face was sallow and her looks were really not that good. The host deliberately took a look at the name list. When his gaze landed on the last contestant's name, the corner of his eyes twitched violently. After a pause, he began to announce the names of the contestants one by one. Jing Heshuan of the South Dragon Kingdom, Hong Xingfa. Bai Shuiying of the East Phoenix Kingdom. PND of 1 Emperor Nanxian and the other 2, as well as all the onlookers, were already numb to this kind of trick. This little girl was probably called Bai Shuiying. The names of the people of the East Phoenix Kingdom were really weird. It was simply a team win. Seeing that everyone had a look of understanding, the host simply did not explain further. He continued, "The content of today's beast taming competition is to control the blood-sucking warblers. The time limit is 4 hours. The points will be evaluated according to the number of successful taming." Following the host's words, the 12 contestants entered a transparent barrier. Then a referee placed 20 blood-sucking warblers inside. At this moment there was an uproar in the audience. Wasn't this too fucking difficult? The blood-sucking warbler had a sharp beak and flew extremely fast. If one was accidentally pecked by it, it would quickly suck human blood. It was very brutal. Moreover, as everyone knew, the blood-sucking warbler was the most unruly demon bird. After the blood-sucking warbler was caught, it would rather commit suicide than be tamed as a human's spiritual pet. How could these contestants successfully tame the blood-sucking warblers? If things went wrong, they might even get injured, especially when Bai Shuiying only had level 1 spiritual power. She was simply looking for trouble. The blood-sucking warblers had obviously been starved for a few days. Their eyes were filled with a fierce light as they could not help but look at Bai Shuiying, who had the weakest spiritual power. There was a withered tree in the enchantment. The blood-sucking warblers landed on it and stared at Bai Shuiying fiercely. They were obviously afraid of the others. They did not attack Bai Shuiying immediately. Instead they flapped their wings tentatively. The contestants frowned. These blood-sucking warblers were different from other demon birds. They were very united. If they were not careful they would be surrounded by these blood-sucking warblers. They had to act cautiously. The 3 contestants from Bai Xian Kingdom were obviously calmer. They all had the experience of successfully controlling the blood-sucking warblers. However, these blood-sucking warblers had just been let in, and their stamina was at its peak. It was better to wait a little longer. The other 2 contestants from Dongfeng Kingdom glanced at Bai Shuiying and warned in a low voice, "These blood-sucking warblers are very fierce. Don't stay far away from us lest you are attacked by them." A faint light flashed in Bai Shuiying's eyes and she nodded. "Thank you both of you. We'll be careful." Seeing that the little girl had been following closely behind the other 2 contestants from the East Phoenix Kingdom, the blood-sucking warblers didn't act rashly. They were quite intelligent, so they naturally understood that these people were here to control them. It was simply wishful thinking. The blood-sucking warblers would rather die than become the spiritual pets of foolish humans. Thus, both sides were in a stalemate for a period of time. Finally, the blood-sucking warblers could not hold back anymore. They had been starving for several days. How could they hold back when food was right in front of their eyes? Moreover, they knew that these people were here to control them and would not take their lives, so they had nothing to fear. They still regarded Bai Shuiying, who had the weakest spiritual power, as their primary target. Almost in an instant, all the blood-sucking warblers swooped down in Bai Shuiying's direction. Bai Shuiying had been staring at the blood-sucking warblers for a long time. Seeing them swooping down, this fellow began to shuttle back and forth among the crowd, shouting as he ran, "Oh my God! Are these birds crazy? Why are they attacking me? Help! Uncle, it's an emergency. Please quick help me block them. Brother, I can tell that you're not ordinary. Quick hurry up and attack." The contestants from the other 3 nations were so angry that they were twitching. "You're too mean. You're attracting trouble." But there was nothing they could do. The blood-sucking warblers were so hungry that their eyes were red. Seeing Bai Shuiying running around, some of them were still chasing after her, while some of them simply attacked the other contestants. The contestants had some leeway. After all, their ultimate goal was not to kill the blood-sucking warblers, but to control them. Therefore, the blood-sucking warblers had nothing to fear and attacked even more crazily. Both sides fell into a chaotic battle. Of course, Bai Shuiying had only been running around screaming and did not have any strength left to fight back. However, it was strange that none of the blood-sucking warblers managed to peck her. In the end, the blood-sucking warblers simply gave up on her and turned to attack the other contestants. When Bai Shuiying saw that there were no more blood-sucking warblers chasing her, she plopped down on the ground and sighed, "Oh, this competition is too difficult. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have participated in it. Other competitions only test the contestants' abilities. This beast-taming competition is simply fatal." The subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom originally had high hopes for this little girl who was also of the Wind generation. Now that they saw her, they were instantly discouraged. Let alone winning, this fellow was probably blessed by the divine phoenix to be able to keep his little life. Soon 2 hours passed. Although the blood-sucking warblers were not successfully controlled, their feathers were messy and they flew back to the withered tree in a sorry state. Their spiritual power level was not as high as these contestants. If it were not for these contestants trying to control them, they would have died a long time ago. The 3 contestants from Bai Xian Kingdom looked at each other and then walked to a place not too far away from the withered tree. The 3 of them each took out a pill. Obviously, the pill had a strong attraction to the blood-sucking warbler. The blood-sucking warbler began to become anxious. A few of them flew away from the withered tree, but when they were halfway there they flew back again. It was obvious that they were very conflicted. When the people from the other 3 kingdoms saw this, their hearts turned cold. The Bai Xian Kingdom was indeed good at beast taming. They had obviously come prepared. These blood-sucking warblers were already extremely hungry. The pills in the hands of the three men from the Beishen kingdom were even more attractive to them. Perhaps a few of them would give in. As time passed, the blood-sucking warblers on the withered tree rose and fell frequently. A few of them had even reached the vicinity of the three men from the Beishen kingdom, but they had not made up their minds yet. Emperor Beijing had a smug look on his face. Their Beishen kingdom would definitely win this beast-taming competition. And it would be a complete victory. The other three kingdoms would probably not be able to successfully control a single blood-sucking warbler. The three people of Beishen kingdom also had smug looks on their faces. It was not that they were bragging, but in terms of beast-taming ability, these people were not their match at all. At this moment they heard a wicked voice say, "Hey, those little bastards, aren't you the most courageous ones? Don't tell me you don't have any moral integrity just because of a pill? Little bastards." Those blood-sucking warblers were so angry that they couldn't even fly. They looked towards the voice and saw that the little girl with the weakest spiritual power was looking at them with a wretched smile. The blood-sucking warblers were instantly enraged. The feathers on their bodies exploded. This detestable little girl actually dared to scold them. She was simply courting death. Therefore all the blood-sucking warblers couldn't care less about the lousy pill. They charged towards Bai Shuiying once again. Bai Shuiying did the same trick again. She ran all over the field with a whoosh. As she ran, she said, "A little bitch is a little bitch. Why are you chasing after little miss for no reason? Do you think that little miss is prettier than all of you?" The spectators were all stunned. Was this Bai Shuiying crazy? He was playing tricks on them. Wasn't she afraid that these blood-sucking warblers would kill her? The three contestants from Beishen kingdom were so angry that they were about to puke. They were about to succeed, but they were interrupted by this stinky girl. It was really too hateful. Therefore when Bai Shuiying ran over, the three of them deliberately blocked her way. They were very pleased with themselves. It was not convenient for them to deal with this stinky girl, so they let the blood-sucking warblers kill her. Unexpectedly, Bai Shuiying took out a large piece of demonic beast meat from her storage ring and threw it into the distance. Then she said, "This is a gift from Miss. Go and eat it." When the blood-sucking warblers smelled the smell of blood, they immediately gave up attacking Bai Shuiying and swarmed toward the piece of demonic beast meat like a swarm of bees. Bai Shuiying looked at the three people from Beishen kingdom provocatively, then she said, "You guys are really despicable. You actually use drugs to seduce the little bitches. Although those little bitches are a little stupid, they are still creatures born and bred. What you guys are doing is simply an insult to them." The three people from Beishen kingdom felt as if they were bickering with dogs in their hearts. If you call them little bitches, it doesn't matter if you call them stupid. But if they use drugs, are they despicable? Is that really a good double standard? Before the three people from Beishen kingdom could say anything, Bai Shuiying continued, "The little bitches have guts. How can they be controlled by humans just for a mouthful of food? Little bitches, am I right?" The blood-sucking warblers were on the verge of breaking down. If they said she was right, it meant that they were admitting that they were little bitches. If they said that she was wrong, then wouldn't they be spineless? The blood-sucking warblers were in a dilemma. They simply ignored this fellow and pretended that they didn't hear what he said. Bai Shuiying jumped to the vicinity of the blood-sucking warblers and took out another piece of demonic beast meat and threw it to them. She sighed and said, "Eat. Eat. You should be free elves who should be flying in the wild. Now you have become so pitiful. It really makes people sympathize. Sai, actually, you also know that even if you don't succeed in being controlled by us, your fate will most likely be to be killed and eat meat when you go back. I heard that your meat is quite delicious. The tendons and teeth are elastic, especially the soup. That taste. It's simply delicious." The blood-sucking warblers were instantly thrown into confusion in the wind. What did this damn girl mean? The first few words were spoken in human language, but why did the last few words sound so terrifying? Don't worry, I'm just saying. The person who captured you might not really eat you. At most, they'll just feed you to their own spiritual pets. Bai Shuiying comforted them. The blood-sucking warblers were so angry that their hair stood on end. Was there a difference between being eaten by someone and being eaten by a demon beast? However, they immediately lost the mood to continue eating the demonic beast's meat. This wretched girl was right. They could not escape death no matter what. Regardless of whether they denied ownership, they would still die in the end. Their offensive power was not strong. No one was really willing to raise a blood-sucking warbler as a spirit pet. It was only because they were unruly that they were used as sacrificial objects in the competition. As a result, the blood-sucking warblers flew back to the withered tree. Although the three people of Bai-Xian Kingdom teased them with pills again, the blood-sucking warblers did not pay any attention to them. Everyone was puzzled by Bai Shuiying's actions. What was she doing? Was she just trying to stir up trouble? Emperor Beijing was so angry that he snorted, "Shameless! Shameless!" None of the so-called winners from the East Phoenix Kingdom were good. It was one thing that she didn't have the ability to tame beasts, but she actually stirred up trouble that even the contestants from our North Shen Kingdom couldn't tame. She was really shameless. Emperor Nanxian and Emperor Xiwen were gloating in their hearts. In any case, the contestants from their two countries couldn't tame beasts successfully. In that case, no one should score points. Time passed quickly. There was only 15 minutes left until the end of the beast taming competition. At this time, Bai Shuiying strolled to the front of the withered tree. "Hey little bitches, I'll give you a chance to change your fate. Establish a temporary contract with me. After the competition is over, I'll let you go. I'm a man of my word. If I'm lying, I'll be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." Boom. A purple heavenly lightning struck the barrier. Fortunately, the barrier was strong enough, but it still gave everyone a fright. Panda N0V1 Bai Shuiying was furious. This heavenly lightning was simply her sworn enemy. She rolled her eyes and said, "Did you see that? Although there's no such thing as the heart demon oath in Towering Sky Continent, the sound of the heavenly lightning just now means that Tian Dao has already known about my oath. You should believe me now, right?" Chapter 33-37, Category 1. Both the blood-sucking warblers and the crowd were stunned by Yun Chujia's words. What the fuck? So that was her plan. This guy was too mean. Was she planning to take revenge? Moreover, not only did she want to win the competition, but she also wanted to abduct those 20 blood-sucking warblers? What do you mean she would definitely release them? Who would believe it? There was no such thing as the heart demon oath in Towering Sky Continent. The heavenly lightning just now must have been a coincidence. After all, the talisman-making competition had also been struck by the heavenly lightning. However, everyone felt that the blood-sucking warblers would not agree to it. If they could simply trick the blood-sucking warblers into recognizing them as their masters, then they would not be blood-sucking warblers. A contestant from Bai-Xian Kingdom said disdainfully, "Bai Shuiying, don't waste your energy. You are harming others without benefiting yourself. These blood-sucking warblers will never recognize you as their master, unless they have lost their minds." That's right. They are not old, but they are full of evil thoughts. Just give up. Another Bai-Xian Kingdom's contestant echoed. They hated this little girl to death. If not for her, they would have been able to control at least 3 blood-sucking warblers by now. Would she still want to kill them all? Dream on. Bai Shuiying ignored them. Instead, she looked at the blood-sucking warblers on the withered tree with a smile. "Hey, this is your only chance to regain your freedom. Since you are all going to die anyway, why don't you trust me this once? After all, I'm the only one who can feed you on this stage, right?" The blood-sucking warblers flapped their wings restlessly and didn't know what to do at that moment. At that moment, Bai Shuiying sighed and said, "Forget it. It's not sweet to force things. Since you don't want to, then forget it. Anyway, what does it have to do with me if you're skinned and eaten? I'm just too kind. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site." Thanks. After saying this, Bai Shuiying turned around and walked to the furthest corner from the withered tree, not even looking at the blood-sucking warblers. The blood-sucking warblers were obviously more anxious. They started to chirp as if they were discussing something. Then they all flew towards Bai Shuiying. The 3 contestants from Bai-Xian Kingdom immediately showed gloating expressions. Those blood-sucking warblers were probably preparing to attack that stinky girl, and that stinky girl still wanted these blood-sucking warblers to recognize her as their master? How naive. Who would have thought that not only did those blood-sucking warblers not attack Bai Shuiying, but they even obediently established a temporary contract with that little girl, and then flew around that little girl like 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. Everyone was stunned by this unexpected turn of events. They had previously treated it as a joke, thinking that those blood-sucking warblers would never be able to establish a temporary contract with that by shuaying, but now it had actually succeeded? So the beast taming technique could be used in this way? So it turned out that just a few snaps could contract the most unruly blood-sucking warblers? Those referees and hosts were clearly dumbfounded too. It wasn't until quite a while had passed since the end of the competition that they opened the enchantment and announced that East Phoenix Country had won the first place in the beast taming competition. Yun Jichin had experienced this time. He nervously stared at Prime Minister Sima, in case the old man made any more shocking moves. Unexpectedly, Prime Minister Sima's face was very calm. Yun Jichin heaved a sigh of relief. Prime Minister Sima was still relatively calm this time. Just as he thought of this, he saw Prime Minister Sima faint with a choking sound. Yun Jichin, all right, forget he said anything just now. Prime Minister Sima woke up very quickly. He held Yun Jichin's hand and spoke incoherently in excitement. Number 1. 3 Number 1. Ha. Ha. Our East Phoenix Kingdom has created a miracle. The number 1 overall score is also our East Phoenix Kingdom's. Ha. This won't do. I must immediately return to the palace to report this great news to His Majesty. I want to share this great honor with His Majesty. After Prime Minister Sima finished speaking, he dashed out like a rabbit. Yun Jichin wanted to stop him, but it was too late. He could only watch as the old man ran away as if his butt was on fire. At this moment, the subjects of East Phoenix Kingdom had all gone crazy. Those merchants had even begun to give away the goods they sold. No money. Everything today is free. Ha. Our East Phoenix Kingdom has 3 first places. Ha. That's right, it's free. It's free. Our East Phoenix Kingdom is number 1 in total points. Ha. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 were so angry that they were twitching. The East Phoenix Kingdom, which was ranked last in 10,000 years, had actually obtained first place in 3 events this time, especially in the beast taming competition. That by shuaying alone had obtained 100 points. Even if the East Phoenix Kingdom did not participate in the last spiritual power competition, they were still number 1 in total points. Originally they had wanted to properly ridicule that little girl, but who would have thought that in the end, they would actually let their East Phoenix Kingdom obtain the first place in the overall score. Where would they put their old face? Prime Minister Sima sprinted all the way back to the East Phoenix Kingdom's base and arrived outside Empress Jiu's temporary palace. Stretching his neck, he shouted, "Your Majesty! Your Majesty! This is a joyous occasion. Not only did we obtain the first place in 3 competitions, but the first place in the overall score is also our East Phoenix Kingdom's. Please quickly follow me to the venue." Prime Minister Sima shouted for a long time, but there was no movement inside. Instead, a palace maid came out and said with a smile, "Prime Minister, His Majesty has said that she wants to dress up and go to the venue in a moment. He wants you to go back first." After such a round of torment, Prime Minister Sima's excitement had already weakened a little. Hearing the palace maid say this, he immediately ran away with a skip. The palace maid and the guards looked at Prime Minister Sima's lively back and their eyes twitched. Did this Prime Minister Sima return to his youth? After lunch, before the final spirit power competition had even begun, Empress Jiu's luxurious sedan chair once again made a grand entrance. It was still a familiar formula and a familiar smell. However, when Empress Jiu came out of the sedan chair, with each step fresh flowers bloomed on both sides of the pure white ground shaking snow cashmere. This perfectly explained what it meant to be loved by everyone. Flowers bloomed. Empress Jiu wore a dress that was as bright as fire, looking down at the world with such nobility that people could not help but want to kneel and submit to her. The subjects of East Foam Kingdom once again roared and roared. However, compared to the usual times, this time, the shouts were clearly more heartfelt. The moment their female emperor ascended the throne, it allowed their East Foam Kingdom to obtain the first place in the grand gathering of the 4 kingdoms. All the glory was brought by their majesty. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 were both angry and annoyed, and they were even a little jealous. How could this little girl be loved by the East Phoenix Kingdom's subjects? If it weren't for those 3 who won, their East Phoenix Kingdom would still be at the bottom this time. Damn it, they didn't know what the origins of those 3 who won were. How come they had never heard of it before? Empress Jiu slowly walked to the front of Emperor Nanxian and the other two. She smiled faintly and said, "Your Majesties, for the last spiritual power competition, our East Phoenix Kingdom has decided to forfeit. After all, if we were to obtain first place again TSK, it would really be a little bullying." Emperor Nanxian and the other two almost choked with anger. This girl was really too cocky. Even if the East Feng Kingdom did not forfeit, they would not be able to get the first place in this spiritual power competition, alright? Emperor Nanxian snorted coldly, "Your Majesty Fenghua, even if your East Feng Kingdom takes part in the spiritual power test, there is a high chance that you will still be in fourth place. So don't say anything nice. It can't be that your East Feng Kingdom doesn't dare to take part in the competition, right?" Yun Chujio spread out her hands. "Alright, since your Majesty Nanxian insists on it, just pretend that I didn't say what I said just now. However, don't worry, the three of you. I have already instructed our contestants to show mercy during the competition." Emperor Nanxian and the other two were so angry that they couldn't help but snort. This girl was really too infuriating. Very soon the time for the last spiritual power test was up. The method of the spiritual power competition was very simple. Each country would send 3 contestants and then fight in pairs until the final winner was chosen. Compared to the first 5 competitions, the fighting scene of this competition was obviously more attractive. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the competition stage. Yun Chujio lazily sat on the chair. She had been tormented for the past 2 days, and the 3 winners of the team were naturally all dressed up by her. Earlier on, this fellow had found many precious medicinal herbs in the warehouse of the Imperial Palace of the East Phoenix Kingdom. Among them, there was the 1,000-leaf celestial grade lotus, which was even more effective than the 1,000-leaf gold grade lotus. This fellow had been fiddling with it for a period of time, and finally he had created a few improved disguise pills. Every disguise pill had a different appearance after being consumed. This was also the reason why no one suspected that the winner of the team was a single person. Of course, another reason was that this guy changed his spiritual power level every time he pretended to win. Therefore, except for a few people under Commander Pang, no one knew that he was pretending to win all 3 times. During the beast taming competition, she once wanted to let Xiao Hanio or the phoenix egg leak a trace of its aura to make the blood-sucking warblers yield. Later she felt that it was a bit risky and it would be bad if people found out. Therefore in the end she still fooled those blood-sucking warblers. Yun Chujio felt a little sleepy as she watched. In her daze she heard someone shouting loudly on the stage. "Didn't your East Phoenix country take first place 3 times? Why are all of you becoming grandsons in this spiritual power competition? Don't say that you are giving way to me. If you have the ability, don't give way to me." Yun Chujio opened her eyes and looked up. There was only one contestant from the South Dragon Kingdom left on the competition stage. Obviously he was the final winner. Yun Chujio somewhat understood why this contestant was so noisy. The South Dragon Kingdom and East Phoenix Kingdom had also taken first place in 3 events. Unfortunately, during the beast taming competition, Bai Shuiying had obtained 100 points in an instant. The Southern Dragon Kingdom could only settle for second place. Therefore, this contestant was also showing off a few words in order to vent the resentment in his heart. Yun Chujio had always been indifferent to this kind of indifferent provocation. Since he was willing to be a clown, then let him be. The subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom were obviously as big-hearted as their emperor. They booed and jeered from the audience, not taking that person's provocation seriously at all. The contestant on the stage obviously did not expect such an outcome. He said in a flustered and exasperated manner, "They really are a bunch of shameless people. It's not that I'm boasting, but let's not talk about trash like you guys right now. Even if Yun Fengjin is still alive, he's still not my match. What bullshit, war god. It's just an undeserved reputation." Before the contestant could finish his sentence, Yun Chujio, who had been sitting lazily on the chair, immediately flew up and landed on the stage. "Are you going to die, or do you want me to kill you?" Yun Chujio stared coldly at the contestant, her eyes filled with killing intent. The contestant was just trying to talk his way out of it. Who would have thought that Yun Chujio, as the ruler of a country, would actually come to the stage to threaten him? He was instantly stunned. Pan Dian 0ve1 cm. He subconsciously took a few steps back, but when he thought about it, this was a competition stage. Even if he had spoken carelessly just now, could the female emperor of Zephyr kill someone in public? Moreover, he was a member of the Southern Dragon Kingdom and not the East Phoenix Kingdom. What could she do to him? When he thought of this, his confidence suddenly increased a lot. He said arrogantly, "Your Majesty, what I said is the truth. If you are not convinced, you can just fight me." That contestant was certain that Yun Chujio could fight him. He was at the 5th level of the spirit transformation realm and was considered to be one of the top existences in the 4 nations. This female Emperor Fenghua was only at the 1st level of the spirit transformation realm. If she accepted the challenge, she would be courting death. Commander Pang led a few generals and jumped onto the stage. "Your Majesty, leave it to us to handle." Yun Chujio's body was filled with a cold killing intent. She waved her hand and said, "All of you go down. I want to kill him with my own hands. Let everyone know that if anyone dares to insult my elders, I will not let them off easily." Although Commander Pang and the others were extremely worried, they still jumped off the stage. However, they did not go far, afraid that something would happen to Yun Chujio. Everyone was stunned by this unexpected turn of events. They never expected that not only would the female emperor of Fenghua jump onto the stage, but she would also accept the challenge from the Southern Dragon Kingdom's Yuan Dong. Was she crazy? That Yuan Dong was at the 5th level of the spirit transformation realm. She was only at the 1st level of the spirit illusion realm. This was simply hitting a rock with an egg. Prime Minister Sima was so anxious that his forehead was covered in sweat. "Your Majesty, you are usually very astute. Why are you so muddle-headed today?" Although that Yuan Dong's crime of insulting the retired emperor was unforgivable, there was no need for you to do it yourself. Yun Jichen was not too surprised. The nuns of the Yun family's nunnery hall had abused second aunt. More than a dozen people had been chopped up by this 9th sister. Yun Fengjian's family had been killed because they had the intention to harm second aunt. Prime Minister Sima was on the verge of tears. "Your Majesty, at this time don't pretend to be ignorant. You still want him to use 3 moves. Maybe he can kill you with 3 moves. Obviously Yuan Dong thought the same. A fierce light flashed in his eyes. This wretched girl really overestimated herself. Since she wanted him to use 3 moves, why should he be polite? Thus Yuan Dong raised his hand and slapped the top of Yun Chujio's head. Yun Chujio suddenly jumped to the side and dodged Yuan Dong's palm. She sneered and said, "So that's all." Yuan Dong was shocked. This stinky girl's spiritual power was so low. He didn't expect her movement technique to be so fast. She actually dodged his attack without much effort. He really underestimated her. However, there were still 2 moves left. He would definitely die. Sure enough, Yuan Dong's second palm attack came, and Yun Chujio dodged it in a rather pathetic manner. Everyone cried out in surprise. Could it be that this female emperor of Zephyr couldn't dodge the 3rd move? Commander Pang and the others were as anxious as ants on a hot pot. However, they knew that Yun Chujio was a person of her word. They didn't dare to disobey her orders, so they could only watch the stage nervously with their hearts in their throats. Pandian 0ve1 Yuan Dong was overjoyed. This wretched girl was simply too weak. The reason why she was able to dodge the first move so easily was probably due to a blind cat meeting a dead rat. If he put in more effort, the 3rd palm strike would definitely be able to kill her. When Yuan Dong thought of this, he gathered all the spiritual energy in his body onto his right palm. With a thunderous momentum, he slapped towards Yun Chujio. He saw that Yun Chujio actually stood still on the spot with a dazed look on her face. He felt proud in his heart. It seemed that this female emperor of the Zephyr nation had already been scared silly. He was dead for sure. The minds of the citizens of the East Feng Kingdom buzzed. Was their emperor silly? Why didn't she dodge? It was over. They had waited with great difficulty for such a good emperor. Could it be that she had been smacked to death just like that? Just when Yuan Dong's hand was only a few inches away from Yun Chujio suddenly moved. The bag in her hand was fiercely thrown at Yuan Dong's face. Yuan Dong did not expect that Yun Chujio would actually counterattack. Didn't they say that she would give him 3 moves? Therefore he was hit by the bag. The red powder in the paper bag flew up, choking Yuan Dong's tears and snot. His vision was blurred, and then there were several loud bangs on the entire competition stage. Everyone did not react for a moment. What exactly happened? A moment later, the smoke and dust cleared, and everyone saw a deep pit on the original competition stage. Empress Jiao stood at the edge of the pit expressionlessly. It turned out that after Yun Chujio waved a bag of chili noodles, she immediately threw several earth-shattering talismans toward the far east. The power of these earth-shattering talismans was much stronger than the sudden rupture talismans. Even the battle stage that was reinforced by the array formation had been blasted into a deep pit, not to mention Yuandong's body of flesh and blood. He had already died a long time ago. The scene was deathly silent. The first thought that emerged in everyone's mind was, didn't we agree to give 3 moves? It seemed that this Empress Fenghua had only given 2 moves, right? Emperor Nanxian was the first to react. He shouted coldly, Your Majesty Fenghua, you clearly said that you would give Yuandong 3 moves. Why did you retaliate in the 3rd move? Furthermore, you are not allowed to use talismans during the competition. Don't you know? Empress Jiao curled the corners of her lips. Your Majesty Nanxian, don't you know that there is no shortage of deceit in war? Furthermore, I am not competing with him. My goal is to kill him. If you dare to insult my elders, you will have to bear my wrath. Before Emperor Nanxian could refute, he heard Empress Jiao continue. Also, Your Majesty Nanxian, your subjects have publicly insulted our country's retired emperor. Is this your order? Do you want to start a war between the 2 countries? Although our Dongfeng kingdom loves peace, we are absolutely not afraid of any provocative actions. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Emperor Nanxian's old face flushed red. Of course, he did not want to start a war with the East Phoenix Kingdom. Now that his country was in a mess, how could he have the energy to start a war with the East Phoenix Kingdom? Your Majesty Nanxian, what I said just now might have been a little harsh. I reckon that Yuandong's actions are only personal and should have nothing to do with your South Dragon Kingdom, so I won't pursue the matter any further. Host announced the final ranking of the competition. After Empress Jiao finished speaking, she gracefully leaped back from the competition stage to the VIP area and sat down on her own seat. Emperor Nanxian didn't manage to squeeze out a single word. What else could he say? That Yuandong could only die in vain. This girl was really sinister and cunning, and she was too shameless. The people of the 4 kingdoms clearly had the same thoughts as Emperor Nanxian. This Empress Fenghua didn't even know what embarrassed meant. She was even more shameless than a street scoundrel. However, they had a consensus in their hearts. Although this Zephyr female emperor's spiritual power was low, she had a lot of bad ideas. It was better not to provoke her. Otherwise, she wouldn't even know how she died. The host glanced at the deep pit on the competition stage. The corners of his eyes twitched as he said a few sentences. Then he announced the final ranking of the 4 nations grand meeting. 1st place, East Phoenix Kingdom, 2nd place, South Dragon Kingdom, 3rd place, West Tiger Kingdom, and 4th place, North Xian Kingdom. Emperor Beijing's expression was extremely ugly. He had thought that he could obtain a good result in the beast taming competition and surpass West Tiger Kingdom in one go. Now he was directly placed at the bottom. It was really embarrassing. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 had been mentally preparing for a long time before they finally smiled and congratulated Empress Jiao with a fake smile. Then they asked tentatively, Your Majesty Fenghua, this time, all of your East Phoenix Kingdom's disciples have won. Yi Dinjing and Bi Shuang can be said to be influential figures. May I know their identities and origins? Empress Jiao smiled. I'm really sorry. The 3 of them come from the same sect and usually live in seclusion in the mountains. This time they specially came here in order to make East Phoenix Kingdom famous. After the competition ended, they had already left the Bloodstream Valley. Let's talk about the 3 of them. Even I don't know where they went. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 were skeptical. However, they still believed that the 3 little girls came from the same sect. After all, the shamelessness of the 3 little girls was obviously taught by the same master. The 4 of them exchanged a few more pleasantries before leading their respective teams back to their countries. Due to the performance of the Dark Horse at the 4-Nation banquet, the entire East Phoenix country was in jubilation. The entire East Phoenix country was immersed in great joy. On this day, as soon as Yun Chujio entered the court, Prime Minister Sima reported with an uneasy expression, Your Majesty, the Jingmu country has sent someone to deliver the national letter. Yun Chujio frowned. The Jingmu country was a second-tier country. The East Phoenix country only needed to provide the prescribed spirit stones every year. This was not the end of the year, so why would they send the national letter? Yun Chujio asked the palace maid to take the national letter. She opened it and took a glance. Immediately, her face was covered with a layer of frost, and she fiercely threw the national letter on the desk. Yun Chujio slowed down and asked the palace maid to pass the national letter to all the ministers. When the civil and military officials saw the contents of the letter of the state of the Jingwood Kingdom, they all revealed furious expressions. This was really going too far. The general content of the letter of the state of the Jingwood Kingdom was that they had heard that the newly ascended female emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom was very beautiful, so they were prepared to let their crown prince marry the female emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom as a side concubine of the crown prince. If the East Phoenix Kingdom agreed, they could deduct 50% of the tribute of the East Phoenix Kingdom. If the East Phoenix Kingdom didn't agree, then they would send out troops to destroy the East Phoenix Kingdom. The hot-tempered general's son immediately said, "Your Majesty, this Jingmu Kingdom is really too much. They don't put our East Phoenix Kingdom in their eyes at all. They'll go and kill that emissary of the Jingmu Kingdom." Prime Minister Sima berated, "Nonsense. The Jingmu Kingdom is a second-class kingdom. The strength of a single Jingmu Kingdom is even stronger than the 4 kingdoms combined. If we anger the Jingmu Kingdom, it will be a piece of cake to destroy our East Phoenix Kingdom. Then according to what you said, are we really going to let our Majesty marry the crown prince of the Jingmu Kingdom as a side concubine? This is simply a great humiliation. Even so, we can't fall out with the Jingmu Kingdom. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable." Yun Chujio's expression was very cold and solemn as she listened to the arguments of the crowd. Even if the 3 kingdoms of the South Dragon Kingdom were to join forces, she was not afraid. It was just that she did not expect that a second-class kingdom like the Jingmu Kingdom would actually make such a request. Their goal was obviously not to make her become a side concubine of the crown prince. This was a provocation and they were looking for trouble. Regardless of whether she agreed or not, the Jingmu Kingdom would find an excuse to annex the East Phoenix Kingdom. Logically speaking, the situation of Towering Sky Continent had always been very stable. Other than paying the spirit stones on time, the countries of all levels basically did not interfere with each other. Why did the Jingmu Kingdom insist on annexing the East Phoenix Kingdom? Yun Chujio was silent for a moment before slapping the desk. "All right. I have my own ideas on this matter. Crown Prince Yun, immediately send someone to gather information about the Jingmu Kingdom and see if anything unusual has happened. Also, Prime Minister Sima, immediately draft a national letter and say that this matter is of great importance. I will consider it for a month and use a more tactful language so that the messenger from the Jingwood Kingdom can bring it back." Yun Jichin and Prime Minister Sima nodded in agreement. Although everyone felt uneasy, no one dared to say anything else. After leaving the imperial court, Yun Chujio immediately went to the divine hall. Before she could explain why she had come, the imperial preceptor said indifferently, "Your Majesty, I already know why you have come. But our Lihan Palace has never participated in the struggles of the various countries, so please leave." Yun Chujio smiled slightly. "Imperial preceptor, aren't you afraid that after our East Phoenix Kingdom is annexed by the Wellwood Kingdom, your position will be lost?" The imperial preceptor's expression stiffened for a moment, and then he said, "Even so, I will not violate the Lihan Palace's rules. When the time comes, the palace master will decide." Yun Chujio saw that the imperial tutor was not willing to accept the carrot and stick, so she could only return in defeat. It seemed that she could not count on the imperial tutor and the Lihan Palace, so she could only think of another way. After a few days, Yun Jichin came to see Yun Chujio. "Your Majesty, because second-class countries do not allow people from third-class countries to enter, the information we can get is very limited. It's okay. Give me the information you have gathered. Let me have a look." Yun Chujio took the summary of the information that Yun Jichin handed over and started to read it. Yun Chujio didn't find any useful information from the beginning to the end, but from the information she had gathered, It could at least prove that the actions of the Jingmu kingdom this time had nothing to do with the three kingdoms of the South Dragon Kingdom. Then why did the Jingmu kingdom suddenly attack? Yun Chujio recalled the basic information about the Jingwood kingdom. The Jingwood kingdom was a second-class kingdom on towering sky continent, and it had 10 third-class vassal states under its jurisdiction. Among them, the East Phoenix Kingdom and the other 4 kingdoms were obviously stronger than the other 6 kingdoms. Yun Chujio calculated that if they fell out with the Jingwood kingdom, the East Phoenix Kingdom basically had no chance of winning. The Jingmu kingdom's strength suppressed the Dongfeng kingdom, not to mention that as long as the Jingmu kingdom gave the order, the other 9 vassal states would attack together, and the Dongfeng kingdom would only have a dead end. For now, she could only think of a way to find out the reason why the Jingmu kingdom's crown prince wanted to marry her as the crown prince's side concubine. Only then could she have a solution. Yun Jichen saw the deep look in Yun Chujio's eyes and asked tentatively, "Your Majesty, what do you plan to do?" Yun Chujio raised her eyebrows and whispered a few words to Yun Jichen. Yun Jichen cried out in alarm, "Your Majesty. That's not right. Aren't you entering the tiger's mouth like a sheep? This is too risky." Yun Chujio said indifferently, "Other than that, do you have a better idea?" This is not true, but you can't do that either. No one will agree." Yun Jichen shook his head repeatedly. Yun Chujio's tone was still indifferent. "Even if you don't agree, you have to agree. Are you going to watch our East Phoenix Kingdom be destroyed?" Yun Jichen saw the determination in Yun Chujio's eyes and knew that she had made up her mind. He could only remain silent. After Yun Jichen left, Yun Chujio held her chin and pondered for a moment. Then a light flashed in her eyes and she took out 3 voice transmission talismans. "Your Majesty Nanxian, I plan to visit Your Majesty Muxian in the Jingwood Kingdom in the next few days. Is Your Majesty Nanxian willing to go with me? I'm sure you know that the Crown Prince of the Jingwood Kingdom has asked me to be his concubine. I'm going there to meet the Crown Prince of the Jingwood Kingdom and exchange my feelings. I also want to see the prosperity of the second-class countries. If Your Majesty Nanxian wants to go with you, I'll mention it in the national letter. I'm sure Your Majesty Muxian won't refuse." Yun Chujio sent the same message to Emperor Shiwen and Emperor Beijing. She believed that the 3 of them would agree. Second-class countries had always been high and mighty. They rarely allowed people from third-class countries to enter. People were curious. Naturally, Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 wanted to see what a second-class country was like. Moreover, this was a good opportunity to suck up to them. When Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 saw Yun Chujio's happy expression, they thought to themselves, "Is this girl trying to climb up to a higher position?" Although the status of the crown prince and side concubine of the Jingmu kingdom was much higher than that of the emperor of the Dongfeng kingdom, no matter how high the status was, it was still not as relaxed as the emperor of a kingdom. Although the 3 of them thought so in their hearts, they still congratulated her on the surface. Yun Chujio squeezed out a blush on her face and pretended to be shy. The corner of Prime Minister Sima's eyes twitched. Fortunately, he knew that His Majesty was not willing. Otherwise, even he would have thought that His Majesty could not help but be happy. After the group of people arrived at the border of the Jingmu kingdom, the attitude of the guards was very bad. They only let them go after they were asked to register one by one. Emperor Nanxian and the others had never suffered such cowardice before. Their expressions immediately turned ugly. At this moment, a middle-aged man came over with some followers. "Your Majesties, I'm really sorry for being late to welcome you. Please forgive me." Although that person spoke very politely, his expression was extremely arrogant and did not have the slightest bit of apology. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 immediately frowned, but when they thought of the other party being a second-class country's minister, they could only endure it even if they were displeased. Yun Chujio, on the other hand, smiled like a flower and asked, "May I know how to address you, my lord?" That person glanced at Yun Chujio and was stunned for a moment. He thought to himself, this Empress Fenghua is really good-looking. No wonder the crown prince wants to marry her as a side concubine. That person regained his senses and said, "My surname is Wu. Your Majesty, please follow me on the flying spirit tool." After the group boarded the flying spiritual device, Lord Wu found an excuse and left the cabin where the four of them were. It was obvious that he had no intention of entertaining them. Emperor Nanxian was so angry that he gritted his teeth. This is outrageous. Even if we are a vassal state, the status of the monarch of our state should be higher than his, right? How can he be so arrogant? Emperor Shiwen and Emperor Beijing's expressions were also extremely unsightly. They had always been a man of their word, so they had never received such cold treatment. Yun Chujia's expression was the same as usual. She said with a faint smile, "There are lengths to the fingers, so this person is naturally different. I believe that His Majesty Mu Xian will treat us well when we arrive at Jing City." Hearing this, Emperor Nanxian and the other two didn't say anything more. After all, they were already mentally prepared. Lord Wu brought Yun Chujio and the others to the inn and made some simple arrangements. Then he said, "The four emperors will stay here temporarily and wait for my emperor's summons." Without waiting for Yun Chujio and the others to say anything, Lord Wu left. Although Emperor Nanxian and the other two were unhappy, they did not say anything. They followed the servants of the inn and went to their own courtyards to rest. Panda N0, Yuan not to mention, the courtyards arranged for them by the inn were not bad. It finally made Emperor Nanxian and the other two feel a little better. As soon as Emperor Nanxian and the other two settled down, Yun Chujio hooked up with the three of them and went for a stroll on the street. Emperor Nanxian and the other two came here to broaden their horizons. Naturally, they could not ask for more. Hence, they left the inn and went on the street. Everyone looked at the spiritual power of the people on the street. Although their spiritual power was indeed higher than that of the people from the Four Kingdoms, the gap was not as big as they had imagined. Emperor Nanxian lowered his voice and said, "I thought they were so amazing. They are not much higher than us." Emperor Shiwen frowned. "You can't say that. Perhaps the people with high spiritual power have not come out yet. It's better for us to be cautious with our words and actions." Yun Chujio caught a glimpse of a restaurant not far away and immediately said, "We haven't eaten well these few days. Today I will be hosting you three. Let's go." Emperor Nanxian and the other two naturally begged for it. This girl was the richest, so they would definitely rip her off today. The group of people arrived at the door of the restaurant. The waiter was very enthusiastic. "Do you need a private room or something? Just help us find a window seat on the second floor. This is for you," Yun Chujio said as she threw a few high-grade spirit stones to the waiter. The waiter's smile immediately became more sincere. He led the group to the second floor and found a window seat for Yun Chujio and the others to sit down. Prime Minister Sima and the other attendants were arranged to sit at another table. Emperor Nanxian curled his lips. Isn't Emperor Fenghua a little too stingy? Doesn't he even want to pay for the private room? Yun Chujio said with a smile, "What's the point of the private room? It's so good to eat here by the window and enjoy the scenery outside." Emperor Nanxian looked out of the window and felt that what she said made sense, so he didn't say anything more. Everyone ordered their dishes and chatted as they ate. Yun Chujio chatted with them while listening to the other guests at the other tables. "Do you see that? That's the female emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom sitting there. He's really pretty. No wonder our crown prince wants to take her as his concubine." What's the use of being pretty? Her spiritual power is too low. She can't be compared to Miss Lu. Of course there's no comparison. Miss Lu is the Prime Minister's daughter. She's already at the 5th level of the spirit transformation realm now. Her future is limitless. Yun Chujio frowned slightly. Miss Lu? She was probably the future imperial consort of the crown prince. At this time she heard those people discussing again. As everyone knows, the relationship between the crown prince and Miss Lu has always been very good. Why did he suddenly marry this female emperor of Fenghua as the crown prince's side consort? It's probably because she's good-looking. Forget it. Although she's quite beautiful, our crown prince isn't a lecherous person. Is there a need to marry her? What you said makes sense. I heard that the female emperor of Zephyr is some divine phoenix envoy. Could it be because of this? Not necessarily. Our Jingmu kingdom believes in Jingmuan, not the phoenix. What does whether she's a divine phoenix envoy have to do with us? If the Jingmu kingdom really brought it up, they would probably have to do as they were told. This kind of aggrieved feeling was really uncomfortable. Yun Chujio burst into laughter. All right. Just treat it as if I was spouting nonsense just now. I reckon that only our East Phoenix kingdom is unlucky enough to be targeted by the Jingmu kingdom. Nothing will happen to your three kingdoms. The more Yun Chujio said so, the more uncertain Emperor Nanxian and the other two became. They could tell from Lord Wu and the others' attitude that the Jingmu kingdom did not put them in their eyes at all. Perhaps they would be dealt with after dealing with the East Phoenix kingdom. If that was really the case, what should they do? Seeing this, Yun Chujio did not say anything more. She greeted them and returned to the courtyard. Prime Minister Sima followed Yun Chujio back to the courtyard. As soon as he entered the study, he could not wait to ask, Your Majesty, you said that on purpose just now, right? What do you want to do? Yun Chujio glanced at him. Haven't you already guessed what I want to do? Prime Minister Sima said with some hesitation, Your Majesty, although I have guessed a little, I still can't figure it out. Did you deliberately bring Emperor Nanxian and the other two here to make them be wary of the Wellwood Kingdom? Yun Chujio sneered, I'm not that kind-hearted. What does it have to do with me whether they are wary or not? I brought them here to let them experience what it means to be cold when the lips die, and what it means to be sad when the rabbit dies. Prime Minister Sima obviously still did not understand, or rather he did not dare to think deeply about it. He said hesitantly, Then what's the use of that? The South Dragon Kingdom is good at making talismans and arrays, the West Wu Kingdom is good at refining weapons, the North Shen Kingdom is good at beast taming, and our country has the Iron Cavalry, the Yun family army. As long as we are fast enough, our 4 countries can completely annex the other 6 countries. When that time comes, even if the spirit power of the Jingmu kingdom is higher than ours, we may not be able to say who will win, Yun Chujio said with a cold tone. In fact, Prime Minister Sima had already guessed a hint of it, but when Yun Chujio said it, his legs were still a little weak. He said with a trembling voice, Your Majesty, you are not joking, right? Yun Chujio glanced at him. Do you think I'm dreaming? When I first came from the immortal Yuan continent, I was unfamiliar with the place and no one in the Yun mansion liked me. Didn't I still become the female emperor of Zephyr? There's nothing impossible. You saw it on the street just now. The spiritual power of the people of the Jingmu kingdom isn't much higher than ours. Even if there are some masters, it's still difficult for 2 fists to fight against 4 hands. It's not like we don't have a chance to take advantage of them. This is probably the reason why the second-class countries strictly forbid the people of the third-class countries from entering. It's because the second-class countries aren't as powerful as we thought. Besides, I didn't buy so many pills and talismans just now because I had money to burn. I wanted to see what level of alchemy and talismans their Jingmu country has. Prime Minister Sima was stunned when he heard this. So it turned out that their Majesty had learned so much after going out for a meal? Their Majesty's wisdom and courage had simply surpassed the limits of human understanding. Yes, she was simply not human. Although Prime Minister Sima was somewhat convinced by Yun Chujio's words, he still felt that Yun Chujio had a good idea. However, it was easier said than done. Firstly, Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 might not agree. After all, the Jingmu kingdom had not made any moves against the 3 kingdoms. They did not need to take any risks. Obviously, Yun Chujio could see through Prime Minister Sima's thoughts. She curled the corners of her lips slightly. I know what you are thinking. Don't worry. Even if the Jingmu kingdom doesn't have any intentions towards the other 3 kingdoms, I will make him have intentions. Prime Minister Sima silently lit 3 big red candles for Emperor Nanxian and the other 2. These 3 people were really unlucky. In the evening, someone from the Imperial Palace brought Yun Chujio and the other 3 people out of the inn and arrived at the Imperial Palace of the Jingmu kingdom. The banquet was arranged in the meeting hall. It was brightly lit inside. As soon as the 4 of them entered, everyone looked at them. As they were here to meet the emperor, Yun Chujio and the other 3 were dressed formally. Yun Chujio wore a red dragon robe and a jade crown on her head. She had a domineering aura and attracted everyone's attention. Yun Chujio and the other 3 walked to the front of the hall and bowed. Greetings, Your Majesty Mu Xian. Emperor Mu Xian did not say anything. Lord Wu sneered and said, Your Majesty, Don't you know that you have to kneel and worship to meet our emperor? Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. Emperor Mu Xian said a few polite words and then changed the topic. Minister Fenghua, since you are here, you should stay for a few more days. I will ask the crown prince to accompany you around. When you get married, you will be able to adapt faster. Yun Chujio blushed and lowered her head without saying a word. Mu Xian thought that she was shy, so he just laughed and signaled for the banquet to begin. When the crown prince Jing Jiahong saw Yun Chujio's shy face, he couldn't help but feel a little moved. Although he didn't have much interest in the female emperor at first. However, he didn't expect that the female emperor of Fenghua was not only beautiful but also interesting. It was a pleasant surprise. When Lu Hanyan saw the crown prince's expression, she couldn't help but clench the handkerchief in her hand. She looked at Yun Chujio with killing intent in her eyes. She looked at Lord Wu, who nodded in understanding. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 different dishes, there were singers and dancers who came up to entertain them. When the performance came to an end, she heard Lord Wu say sourly, "I heard that Her Majesty Fenghua is good at singing and dancing. Why don't you let us have an eye-opener too?" As soon as Lord Wu finished his words, the meeting hall fell silent. Lord Wu's words were obviously humiliating Yun Chujio and asking the ruler of a country to perform in public? If this wasn't humiliation, then what was it? However, what would the female emperor of Zephyr do? Would she cry and ask Mu Xian for justice? Or would she really sing a song? Just as everyone was gloating, they saw Yun Chujio stand up. Everyone thought, "Tiskeri. Looks like the female emperor of Fenghua is really going to perform. She really is from a low-class country. She doesn't know her place at all." Just as everyone was thinking, they saw Yun Chujio walk to the center of the hall. However, she didn't stop. She walked all the way to Lord Wu's table. Everyone was baffled. What was she trying to do? "Lord Wu, what did you say just now?" "I was too far away and did not hear clearly," Yun Chujio said lightly. Lord Wu pursed his lips, but he still repeated, "I said, I heard that His Majesty Fenghua is good at singing and dancing. Why don't you let us open our eyes too? Everyone, do you want to see?" The crowd also started to jeer. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 had ugly expressions on their faces. Although they were not the ones who were put in a difficult position, they also felt ashamed when the rabbit died and the fox mourned. But, with a loud sound, all the jeers suddenly stopped. Lord Wu covered his cheeks and stared at Yun Chujio in disbelief. She actually slapped him? How would she dare? While Lord Wu was in a daze, Yun Chujio slapped him again. This time she used even more strength than before, causing Lord Wu to stumble and the dishes on the square table to fall to the ground. Everyone was stunned by this turn of events. Had the female emperor gone mad? Did she think that this was their East Phoenix country? PNDNOV1 Lord Wu was a second-grade official of the Jingmu country and was considered a respectable figure. How dare she slap him twice? At this moment, Yun Chujio suddenly walked to the center of the meeting hall. She first bowed to Mu Xian and then said with a choked voice, "Your Majesty Mu Xian, I acted rashly just now. Please punish me. However, I am the future side concubine of the crown prince. Lord Wu actually asked me to perform a song and dance. It is an insult to the crown prince and even to your Majesty. Therefore I was angry and did something wrong. Please punish me." Mu Xian naturally knew that Lord Wu's purpose was to humiliate Yun Chujio, not to humiliate him and the crown prince. However, after Yun Chujio said that he could not protect Lord Wu. Therefore he put down the wine glass in his hand and said sternly, "Lord Wu, what crime should you commit?" Lord Wu rolled and crawled on the ground. He could not defend himself, so he kowtowed and said, "I drank a few times more, so I spouted nonsense." Because of Lord Wu's interlude, the banquet ended hastily. Yun Chujio and the other 3 had just left the imperial palace when they heard someone behind them say, "Miss Yun, please wait a moment." Yun Chujio frowned and called her Miss Yun. It was obvious that the person who came should be the crown prince. Yun Chujio turned her head and looked. As expected, the person who spoke was the crown prince of the Jingmu kingdom, Jing Jiahong. Jing Jiahong took 2 steps forward and approached Yun Chujio. He said, "It's still early and the moonlight is pretty good today. I'll send Miss Yun back to the courier station. We can admire the moon on the way." Yun Chujio's face was a little shy. She nodded and said, "Thank you, Your Highness." Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 found an excuse to leave. They thought that the crown prince of the Jingwood kingdom seemed to like that girl, but no matter how much he liked her, it wouldn't be easy for this girl to get married. Yun Chujio and Jing Jiahong chatted as they walked towards the courier station. In a carriage far away, Lu Hanyan looked at their backs, her eyes full of killing intent. After Lu Hanyan returned to the Prime Minister's residence, she was immediately called to the study room by Imperial Chancellor Lu. "Hanyan, your actions today have really disappointed me. Udayo is my person. How will the emperor view me if you do this?" "Actually, you don't have to do this at all. That woman, the female emperor of Zephyr, will die sooner or later. He won't pose any threat to you." "Father, even so, I still can't wait to kill her immediately. But don't worry, I know the severity of the situation. I won't do anything else." Lu Hanyan said with slightly red eyes. "That's good. If we spoil His Majesty's plans, it won't be something our Lu family can bear." "Father, I still don't understand. If His Majesty wants to annex the East Phoenix Kingdom, he can just send troops to attack. Would the East Phoenix Kingdom still dare to resist? I think His Majesty is afraid of the Li Hen Palace. If the Crown Prince marries her, then our Crown Prince will be able to take control of the East Phoenix Kingdom in the name of supervising the kingdom. This way we can annex the East Phoenix Kingdom without wasting a single soldier. Then we can think of a way to annex the other 3 kingdoms. The remaining 6 small kingdoms will be even easier," Imperial Chancellor Lu explained. Lu Hanyan frowned. "Father, weren't we always so peaceful? Why did Her Majesty insist on annexing those vassal kingdoms?" Imperial Chancellor Lu was clearly a little impatient. He said impatiently, "There are some things that you don't need to know. You only need to know that you don't need to find trouble with the female emperor of Zephyr and let her marry here smoothly. Once the Crown Prince takes control of the East Phoenix Kingdom, she will naturally not be able to live." Seeing that her father was a little displeased, Lu Hanyan didn't dare to say anything more and retreated in embarrassment. On the other side, Crown Prince Jing Jiahong and Yun Chujio were chatting happily. They were talking about the local customs of the Jingmu Kingdom and the East Phoenix Kingdom. Although Yun Chujio wanted to probe the reason why the Crown Prince married her as the Crown Prince's side concubine, she was afraid of alerting the enemy, so she didn't say anything more. While the 2 were chatting, the bright full moon in the sky was covered by dark clouds. Yun Chujio suddenly had a bad premonition. Fuck, could the damn Wu Yun have come to strike her? Yes, she was far away from In City now, and there was no divine Phoenix Valley to hide from. This damn Wu Yun would naturally not let go of such a great opportunity. Oh my god, what should she do? Would she be struck to death in a foreign country just like that? Without the clear splendor of the full moon, the night sky instantly darkened. Fortunately, Crown Prince Jing Jiahong's entourage held the palace lantern in their hands. Otherwise, they would really be unable to see their own fingers. Although Yun Chujio was very anxious in her heart, her expression remained the same. It was not easy for her to reach the entrance of the courier station. Crown Prince Jing Jiahong said a few more words of concern before leaving. Yun Chujio held the palace lamp in her hand. The sorrow in her heart flowed like a river. What should she do? Putting aside whether she would be struck to death, the courier station was filled with people. In this way, wouldn't the whole world know that she was struck by lightning? Whether it was the East Phoenix country or other countries, they were all very wary of heavenly lightning. If they were to know that she was someone who was not favored by Tian Dao, the position of the female emperor of Zephyr would definitely be lost. Yun Chujio frowned and returned to her own courtyard. The first thing she did was to chase Prime Minister Sima and the others out of the courtyard. Prime Minister Sima was dumbfounded. What was wrong with Her Majesty? Why was she chasing them out of nowhere? Everyone could only wait pitifully at the entrance of the courtyard, hoping that their emperor would calm down and let them in. All of you go to Emperor Nanxian's courtyard and stay there. No matter what happens later, don't come back. Do you hear me? Empress Jio's cold voice came from the courtyard. Prime Minister Sima did not dare to disobey and quickly brought his entourage to Emperor Nanxian's courtyard. Emperor Nanxian's courtyard was not too far from Yun Chujia's courtyard. It was obvious that Emperor Nanxian did not welcome these uninvited guests. Just as he was about to go out and argue with Yun Chujio, he saw a hole in the dark night sky as if someone had split it open. A bolt of purple lightning struck straight into Yun Chujia's courtyard. Emperor Nanxian was so frightened that he immediately pulled back his leg. Oh God, what was going on? That girl was struck by lightning? What did she do to incur the punishment of the Tian Dao? Before Emperor Nanxian could come up with a clue, the purple lightning struck Yun Chujia's courtyard one after another. Everyone in the inn looked at the courtyard in horror. Yun Chujio sat cross-legged in the middle of the courtyard and shouted outside, "If you don't want to die, leave the inn immediately. Otherwise you'll be struck to death by the lightning. Don't blame me." Emperor Nanxian and the others were stunned at first, then they ran out of the inn. They didn't want to be buried with that wretched girl. Although Prime Minister Sima and the others were worried about Yun Chujia's safety, they didn't dare to disobey her orders. They could only follow Emperor Nanxian and the others to the outside of the inn. Yun Chujio guessed that they had already left. Only then did she raise her head to look at Wu Yun, who was baring his fangs and brandishing his claws. She curled the corners of her lips. "Hey little bitch Yun, do you think that without the divine Phoenix Valley I will be struck to death by you? Little bitch Yun?" The dark clouds in the sky trembled. Then the heavenly lightning struck down even more densely. "You bitch, you're dead for sure today," Yun Chujio said with a smile. "Chop? I haven't broken through for a long time. You're really timely, Yun. I love you to death." Wu Yun saw Yun Chujio's fearless look and could not help but feel a little suspicious. Could this damn girl have thought of another way to avoid the heavenly lightning? Wu Yun thought about it again. This damn girl had always been scheming. Maybe she was lying to it again. Could not be fooled. Put more effort into it. Today she must be hacked to death. Therefore Wu Yun risked his life and hacked downwards. Yun Chujio released Xiao Hanyo and Xiao Mogu and let them carry it for her. She supported her chin and thought about it. Finally her eyes lit up. Yun Chujio put Xiao Hanyo and Xiao Mogu into her spiritual beast bag. Then she stood up and smiled at Wu Yun in the sky. "Xiao Hanyo Yun, I have to thank you. Not only did you help me break through, but you also helped me solve a big problem. I love you, moi." Wu Yun was dumbfounded. Did this stupid girl go crazy from being struck by it? What kind of nonsense was this? She was even touching and beating it up. Did she want to take advantage of it? Female hooligan. Just as Wu Yun was feeling suspicious, he saw Yun Chujio stand up and run out. Wu Yun came back to his senses and started to chase after this fellow. Did she want to run? No way. Hence, the crowd outside the courier station watched helplessly as Empress Jio, dressed in red, ran towards them with a string of purple heavenly lightning. They were all so frightened that they scattered and ran in all directions. Prime Minister Sima was scared silly. He stood rooted to the ground in a daze. Fortunately, Yun Chujio suddenly turned a corner and ran towards the direction of the palace. This fellow ran while shouting, "Not good. The divine phoenix is angry. The divine phoenix didn't allow me to marry. Now that she knows that I'm going to marry the crown prince of the Jingmu kingdom, the heavenly lightning has come to strike me. I must immediately find the emperor of the Jingmu kingdom and ask him to take back his orders. Otherwise I will really be struck to death." Everyone was confused after hearing this. Fortunately, Prime Minister Sima came back to his senses. It was unknown whether he was frightened or not, but he suddenly understood Yun Chujio's intentions. He immediately explained loudly to the crowd, "Back then, the fifth prince of the previous dynasty wanted to marry our emperor. Back then, our emperor said that because she was the messenger of the divine phoenix, the divine phoenix would not allow her to marry anyone. Back then we were still skeptical. Now that we have seen it, it is indeed the case. Just because our emperor wanted to agree to the request of the crown prince of the Jingmu kingdom, now he is going to be struck by lightning. As expected, the orders of the divine beast cannot be disobeyed." Emperor Nanxian and the other two had heard of this matter before, and they could not help but nod their heads. It seemed that it was not so easy to be the divine phoenix messenger. This little girl was destined to be an old lady for the rest of her life. However, the lightning was so dense. It was hard to say if she would survive the night. Although everyone was afraid, they were really curious. Hence they followed Yun Chujio from afar to observe. Yun Chujio ran all the way to the imperial palace. When she passed by the prime minister's residence, this bad guy appeared. Wasn't Lu Hanyan trying to trip her up? Today she could let little slut Yun deal with her. Hence, this fellow ran to the entrance of the prime minister's residence and shouted, "Open the door! Open the door! I want to see the emperor." The people in the distance were all dumbfounded. This Empress Feng Hua must have been muddled by the lightning. That was the prime minister's residence. How could it be a royal palace? The guards guarding the prime minister's residence had been scared away when a string of purple heavenly lightning arrived. Hence, Yun Chujio kicked open the door and ran in with a string of heavenly lightning. "Your Majesty, take back your order quickly. Otherwise, I will be struck to death by the lightning bolts." Yun Chujio shouted as she ran to the backyard. It was inevitable that the lightning bolts could not hit accurately. Therefore, wherever this guy went, it was a mess. The prime minister's mansion was in bad luck. Imperial Chancellor Lu saw a string of purple lightning bolts striking toward his yard. He was so scared that his legs were a little weak. After hearing Yun Chujio's shout, he shouted, "This is the prime minister's mansion." He subconsciously shouted, "This is the imperial chancellor's residence. The imperial palace is to the south of the scenery city." Yun Chujio shouted, "Ah, so I have come to the wrong place? Thank you for your reminder, Imperial Chancellor Lu. I will go to His Majesty Mu Xian to take back my order." Although Yun Chujio said so, she still wandered around the backyard of the prime minister's mansion like a headless fly. She did not leave the prime minister's mansion with a string of heavenly lightning until she had broken most of the yard. Then she went straight to the imperial palace. After saying that, Imperial Chancellor Lu regretted it. If this were to reach the ears of Emperor Mu Xian, wouldn't he suspect that he was leading the trouble to the other side? The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. He hurriedly ran to the imperial palace. Lu Hanyan looked at the mess in the prime minister's mansion and gnashed her teeth in anger. She thought to herself that it would be best if the heavenly lightning killed that bitch to avoid causing trouble for her. Yun Chujio finally rushed to the entrance of the imperial palace with a string of heavenly lightning. Although the imperial palace guards were afraid, they did not dare to leave their posts without permission. They could only say, "Your Majesty Feng Hua, the imperial palace is an important place. You are not allowed to enter unless summoned. Please leave." Yun Chujio pointed at the dark cloud above her head and said, "It's not that I want to go in now, it's that it wants to go in. If you have the ability, fly up to the sky and stop Wu Yun." Those guards rolled their eyes in anger. Even if they had the greatest ability, they could not stop Wu Yun. Besides, weren't you lying through your teeth? That Wu Yun was obviously chasing after you to split. If you left the palace, wouldn't Wu Yun follow you? Just as those guards were thinking, boom, boom, a few bolts of heavenly lightning struck down. He Xinjiu shouted at Wu Yun, "What are you splitting for? Didn't I tell you? It was His Majesty Mu Xian who gave us the letter of the state, and only then did I agree to marry His Highness the Crown Prince. It was not of my own free will." Wu Yun thought, what a mess. It didn't care who this stinky girl married. It only had one purpose, and that was to hack this arrogant stinky girl to death. He Xinjiu continued, "I'll go in now and ask His Majesty Mu Xian to take back his order. You tell Lord Divine Phoenix not to be angry with me, okay?" Wu Yun naturally wouldn't answer her. He just kept hacking at the heavenly lightning. Although the gate of the palace was strong, it could not withstand the lightning. A moment later, the gate of the palace was smashed into pieces. He Xinjiu rushed in. The palace guards wanted to stop her, but when they saw the purple lightning, they were terrified. Yun Chujio was eager for them to come up and die so that she could share a few bolts of lightning with her. Mu Xian had already received the news. He stood in the highest pavilion in the palace and looked at Yun Chujio rushing in with a string of purple heavenly lightning bolts. His face was slightly pale. Could it be that the female emperor of Fenghua had really been cursed by the divine phoenix? Once she got married, she would be struck by lightning? What should he do? He looked at Yun Chujio as if she had entered an uninhabited land, and his face became even paler. If the female emperor of Fenghua really rushed in front of him, he would not be able to save his life if the heavenly lightning bolts missed. At this moment, Imperial Chancellor Lu arrived in front of Yun Chujio through a short cut. He blocked Yun Chujio with an expression that said, "Your Majesty, please wait for a moment. I will go and discuss with my Majesty about taking back my orders." Yun Chujio pouted in her heart and used her sleeve to cover her mouth with some red fruit juice. Then she said weakly, "Then you should hurry up. Although I am the divine phoenix emissary, I can't withstand so many heavenly thunders. I feel that I am about to be struck to death. I will give you at most 15 minutes. Otherwise, I will tell His Majesty personally." Thus, they all expressed that they would follow her. Everyone left the scenery city in a huff. Then the problem came. Emperor Nanxian and the others could naturally leave on flying spiritual artifacts, but He Xingjiu was being hacked to death. What should they do? Moreover, after such a long ordeal, He Xingjia's stamina was almost exhausted. He Xingjiu blinked her eyes. Now she could only spend money. She said to Emperor Nanxian and the others, "I'll go first. You guys follow me from behind. Remember to stay far away from me so that you won't be affected." Without Yun Chujio's instructions, Emperor Nanxian and the others would not get too close to her. This fellow was a jinx now. Only a fool would get close to her. But how was she going to go? Run back to the East Phoenix Kingdom on 2 legs? Stop bullshitting. Just as Emperor Nanxian and the others were puzzled, they saw Yun Chujio call out a flying spirit tool from her storage ring. After she went up, the flying spirit tool shot up into the sky with a speed as fast as lightning. This flying spirit tool ran much faster than Xiao Hei's 2 legs. In a short while, it turned into a small black dot wrapped in purple heavenly lightning. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 looked at each other. Was that girl crazy? Although the flying spirit tool was relatively sturdy, it could not withstand the lightning strikes. Although everyone thought so, they still boarded the flying spirit tool and followed from afar. They watched as the flying spirit tool wrapped in purple lightning flew up and down, nimbly dodging the lightning strikes. Even so, the heavenly lightning was too dense and the flying spirit tool finally fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Prime Minister Sima cried out in alarm. Oh my God, would their majesty fall to her death? At this moment they saw Empress Jiao standing on a large chopping board and slowly landing on the ground. As soon as she landed on the ground, Empress Jiao summoned another flying spirit tool. After climbing up, the flying spirit tool once again shot into the sky with a whoosh. After 15 minutes, the flying spirit tool once again fell to the ground. Empress Jiao once again sat on the chopping board and landed on the ground. Then she summoned another flying spirit tool. Emperor Nanxian and the others were dumbstruck when they saw this. Then a thought emerged in their hearts at the same time. This girl really knew how to waste money. A flying spirit tool was worth tens of millions of upper-grade spirit stones. In just a short period of time, she had already obtained hundreds of millions of upper-grade spirit stones. Empress Jiao was also very helpless. She didn't want to, alright? However, other than this method, she really couldn't think of a way to take a breather. Although it was a bit of a waste of money, it was her sister's fault for being rich. However, this also allowed her to open the door to a new world. This flying spirit tool was much more resistant than ordinary defensive spirit tools. After returning, she urgently needed to do one thing, and that was to buy a flying spirit tool, a flying spirit tool, and a flying spirit tool. Wu Yun in the sky was simply about to puke. Where did this smelly girl get so many flying spirit tools? She actually couldn't hack them off no matter how she hacked. She had hacked so many people and demonic beasts, but she had never used so much effort. This damn smelly girl was really too difficult to deal with. She didn't believe that the flying spirit tool in her hand wouldn't be hacked off. Well, see. Finally, Wu Yun was pleasantly surprised to find that after that wretched girl landed on the ground, she did not take out her flying spiritual weapon. Could it be that she had used it all up? Wu Yun was overjoyed and continued to hack down. Who would have thought that Yun Chujio would silently say to it, "Idiot. Little sister wants to absorb some heavenly lightning to break through. Come on, hack me. Wu Yun was so angry that he couldn't take it anymore. After a series of bombardment, a huge pit appeared on the ground. Emperor Nanxian and the others watched from afar, not daring to get close. This time the girl was probably doomed. TSK they didn't expect to be struck to death just because they agreed to the marriage of the crown prince of the Jingmu kingdom. It was really tragic. However, that girl was already dead, so why was the heavenly lightning still striking non-stop? Soon 2 hours passed. The crowd was stunned to find that a chopping board had flown out of the deep pit. Who was sitting on it other than Yun Chujio? Yun Chujio summoned her flying spiritual device again. After rolling and climbing up, the flying spiritual device disappeared into the horizon once again with a whoosh. Wu Yun was going crazy. Why did she still have a flying spirit tool? Could it be that she sold flying spirit tools? She was so mad. Therefore, after He Xinju destroyed a few flying spirit tools, she landed on the ground and was hacked. Then she summoned her flying spirit tool again and entered it to regulate her breathing. After that, she landed on the ground and was hacked. When the sky had just brightened up, Wu Yun floated away with a listless head. Although it still wanted to continue hacking, it no longer had the power of lightning. It secretly hated that bitch. Let's wait and see. Sooner or later it will hack you to death. Yun Chujio adjusted her breathing in the flying spirit tool and changed into a set of clothes. After thinking for a while, she adjusted the level of her spiritual power to the real level 5 of spirit illusion. Then she sat on the chopping board and took out the charred flying spirit tool. Emperor Nanxian and the others let Yun Chujio into the flying spirit tool and were shocked to find that she had suddenly broken through to level 4. They could not help but be stunned. Yun Chujio said with a pretentious look, "This is also a blessing in disguise. Just now, at the critical moment of life and death, I suddenly had an epiphany. Then, the level of my spiritual power increased. Actually, I am also very helpless. After all, the spiritual power has grown so fast that it is easy for the foundation to be unstable." Emperor Nanxian and the other two were filled with jealousy and hatred. They thought to themselves, just keep pretending. Shameless. Emperor Nanxian and the other two said a few words of congratulations against their hearts and then said, "Your Majesty Fenghua, does this mean that the Divine Phoenix has forgiven you? Will it not strike you again?" Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said, "It should be because it has calmed down. I will go and repent properly when we return to the East Phoenix country. However, the most important thing now is to hurry up. Otherwise, if Emperor Mu Xian goes back on his word, he might kill us." Emperor Nanxian and the other two were stunned. "Emperor Fenghua, why do you say that? Since Emperor Mu Xian has already asked us to leave, why would he kill us? It doesn't make sense." Yun Chujio looked at the three of them as if they were idiots. "You are still so naive even after everything that has happened? You all heard it when we were in the restaurant. The crown prince of the Jingmu kingdom has asked to marry me. Firstly, it's not because of my appearance. Secondly, it's not because I'm the divine phoenix emissary. Then what is the reason?" Emperor Nanxian and the other two were confused. They could not help but ask, "Then what is the reason?" "I suddenly figured it out at the banquet today. It's highly likely that the Jingmu kingdom is trying to annex the Dongfeng kingdom. Do you think that the Dongfeng kingdom will satisfy the Jingmu kingdom's appetite? After annexing our Dongfeng kingdom, they will definitely annex your 3 kingdoms and annex all 10 vassal kingdoms," Yun Chujio said coldly. The expressions of Emperor Nanxian and the other two changed drastically. However, Emperor Nanxian still said, This is all your one-sided guess. In fact, it might not be the case. Perhaps it's because of your petty heart." Yun Chujio spread out her hands and said, "Soon, you will know whether it's my petty heart or not. No matter what, we should leave the Jingmu kingdom as soon as possible. Oh right, I brought a bunch of thunder into the palace earlier. Do you think that Emperor Mu Xian will be angry out of embarrassment? Moreover, the 3 of you are with me. Do you really think that if Emperor Mu Xian wants to settle the score with me, he will spare you?" Emperor Nanxian and the other two were furious. "You are so mean. No wonder they were invited to the Jingmu kingdom." It turned out that he had no good intentions at all. Although Emperor Nanxian and the other two were furious, They knew that the most important thing now was to leave the Jingmu kingdom as soon as possible. At most, they would settle scores with this little girl when they returned to the kingdom. For the next 2 days, everything went as usual. Emperor Nanxian and the other two felt that Yun Chujie was exaggerating. As the ruler of a second-class kingdom, Emperor Muxian was not so petty. It was all because of the little girl's petty heart. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.